All right, it's 5:30 p.m. and I'd like to call to order the March 21st, 2016 meeting of the Midland Independent School District Board of Trustees. If everyone will please join me first in a moment of silence, then followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first I'd like to welcome everyone to our new meeting facility here at the Bowie Fine Arts Auditorium. We're glad to be here. This will be our meeting place from now on. We're incorporating the old boardroom into much needed space from some of our personnel that our lease is up on some places around town, and we're consolidating down into the main office. And in fact, I think our police department is going to be off scene where the board was. So if you'll also please bear with us, we're using our technology capabilities here for the first time, and while we have no doubt that it should work marvelously, we may have to learn a thing or two during the course of the meeting. Hopefully not, but if you'll please bear with us if we have to. But thank you all for being here. Thank you for your interest in public education in Midland. As we always do, I'd like to begin with our presentations, recognitions, award, and announcements. And the first one is Mayor and County Recognition Day for National Service. Presenter, Senior Link Midland.
And Mrs. Owen, please.
Thank you. It's so exciting to be here for the very first meeting here in this wonderful facility. It's just fantastic, and I think the fruits of your labors is a testament to how wonderful this space is and how it will serve children on into the future. So thank you again for your hard work on the bond that helped create this. I'm here today to introduce one of my old colleagues at used to be Community and Senior Services. So if Senior Links is new to you, they did change that name. It's a more hip name, right, Saul? They're here today to talk about seniors and a National Day of Recognition and Service. Saul Herrera is the director of that program, and then Jody Sneed is the executive director of Senior Links. Gentlemen.
Here we go. All right. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Those of you that don't know me know I never pass an opportunity to speak on a microphone, especially when I'm speaking about our senior service and our programs. As Jamie mentioned, it is a National Day of Service. It's titled the Mayor's and County Day of Recognition. So across the nation on April 5th, which is coming up, City Council, mayors, county officials, community leaders are all recognizing the services provided by senior citizens in their various communities. I'm here to share with you a few information about our foster grandparent program that has quite a tie with your school system here. How many of you are familiar with the foster grandparents? A few of you? Yes. Currently we have 40 grandparents, or as they're commonly known, grannies and grandpas. They are in 14 schools in the ISD system. These volunteers are low-income seniors, and they must meet a criteria to enter the program. The first one is, of course, being low income. Second, they must be 55 years of age and older. And second, the best part, they must love children, because they work one-on-one with at-risk and special needs children identified by the public school system. These children are mentored by these grandparents one-on-one. They work with 4 children a year, so 40 probably works with about 160 children in an annual year. Obviously, we need more. There's more needs, there's more children that need to be served. But these grandparents do more than just mentor them. They are their friends. The children open up to them. They know they can rely with an older adult that will be non-judgmental toward them, and they can freely ask any questions, help them with socialization, with anything that a child needs while they're in class. These volunteers work 50 to 40 hours a week. They earn a modest tax-free stipend, which is $2.65 an hour. 35 cents mileage. I know some of you are probably going, wow, $2.65. That's not much, is it? But it's not an income. It's a income as of a job. This is a volunteer opportunity. And they do it because they love children, not because of the money. The money they do receive is an excess to them, allowing them a better quality of life, the ability to pay more bills, buy more groceries, help them with all their necessities. Besides this, they must pass an annual physical to make sure they're in tip-top shape to work with all these little kids running around the classroom, right? And help attend and lower the stress level of the teachers, counselors, and principals. These grandparents make a huge impact in not only the lives of the children, but as well as their parents, the teachers, counselors, principals, and our entire community. They're a huge benefit. And I just wanted to share with you what they did. So when you see one of these grandparents out there, they're very noticeable. They all wear a red smock with their lantern, and they're known Granny, Abuela, Abuelita, a variety of names, and they get to choose their own name. So I leave you with the idea that these grandparents are here to serve your children and your children's children. Hopefully this program continues to serve Midland. It's been serving nationally for 50 years. Here in Midland, it's been here for 15 years. And in a few weeks, we'll be having a banquet to honor them. And we know a lot of the teachers and principals will be attending that banquet to honor their grandparents. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. We most definitely want you to know how much we appreciate you, the group. Almost every time I walk into a school, I see one of the grandparents, and they got kids hanging all over them, and they've got a smile on their face. They're doing a wonderful job for us, and we appreciate them. We appreciate you.
Thank you, sir, very much.
You bet.
Dr. Warren, is it Park Hill, Smith, and Cooper next?
I believe, Jamie, do we, I know
Yes.
the boss of Park Hill,
He's
Smith
here.
and Cooper is
Mr.
here.
Edwards?
Yes, yes. I just wanted to say about foster grandparent program, it is near and dear to my heart. I wrote the first grant 15 years ago, and it was my very first federal grant that I had ever written. And so I know a lot about the program. I can't believe the stipend is still $265, but there you have it. That's the government for you, right? But it's a wonderful program, and I think that the grandparents benefit as much, if not more, as children and our teachers do. So
Yep,
it's
I
a
agree.
real community nugget that we have here in Midland. So we do have Mr. Jay Edwards from Park Hill, Smith, and Cooper. At MISD, we're so fortunate to have many partners who donate money, partners who donate their time. And in Park Hill, Smith, and Cooper, we have both. They donate money to so many of our programs and our causes and our events, but also they donate time. They are now very wonderfully employed at our after-school program at Milam Elementary. And they are bringing a spark and interest from what they do in their jobs to the children, to let them understand and help them understand why math is important, why science is important. And so it's a wonderful combination and a partnership at Milam. So please help me welcome Mr. Jay Edwards.
Well, thank you, Jamie. I don't really have a lot to say except thank you for letting us have the opportunity to be a part of it. You know, I feel like we're really partners with the school district here, and you guys have entrusted us to really be involved in a lot of aspects of what you do as far as designing new buildings, being involved in other planning propositions. But the thing that really just hit us as we were talking about, our theme at Park Hill Smith & Cooper is building community, and we really want to be a part of the community, and we have a community investment program, and so we felt like that it would be very important not only to invest our money, but to invest our time. And so as we started talking to Dr. Warren and to Jamie about where we could best plug in, we thought that Milam Elementary School would be a great place for us to develop a after-school homework club. And so we have about 20 or 25 of our employees who have volunteered over this past school year, to go on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And the school, Miss Bermia, the principal there, has been great. She's selected 25 students between 3rd and 6th grade that meet with us in the library after school, and we help them with their homework. And I will tell you that it's been a real sense of bonding and community for our staff. We just get to design schools all over the country, but it's neat to actually be in a school when it's working and operating, and see the children and them learn. And just me personally, it's been very rewarding as well. As I'm really busy, Sherry Mullins is our project assistant who really put this all together. And she'll ask me, are you going today? Because she knows that my schedule, is always, and I say, yeah, I'm going. That's, if nothing else goes right today, I know that I'll feel better about the day if I get to spend an hour with those kids. And I really have enjoyed my 3 little 3rd graders that I work with on Thursdays. So we're looking forward to them as they test in the next couple of weeks, and we hope that it'll have made a difference. So we thank y'all for letting us be a part.
Jay, we're very glad you got to come, of course, but we really did. We're sorry that more of your crew couldn't come up, and that's really the reason why we wanted to bring them up, is just honor them. I've seen them at Milam. They're doing a wonderful job, and I believe it's going to be a rousing success because of the dedication of them to the kids. So we really do appreciate Park Hill Smith & Cooper, you, and your leadership, and your staff members for giving of their time.
I'll be sure to let them know that.
Please do.
Thank you. Yes.
Please
Thank
do.
you, Jay. Appreciate you and everyone else. All right, last but not least, our Heroes for Kids Award.
I need Ms. Monica Baeza. Monica, come in, and I believe she's got someone with her. Lupe? Mrs. Ramirez, come down. Yes, Lupe, you have to. And if Mr. Davis would make his way to the podium. Here you go. Take these. For those, and Lupe, this may be your first board meeting, for those of you who are coming here for the first time, coming to the board meeting for the first time, there are on occasion that we give out tokens of our appreciation. Most of the time, these are, just like Mr. Edwards just got up and talked about, most of the times when we give these kind of recognitions, it's to folks who are in our community outside the school district, who come into the school district, who just does a wonderful job. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to call your attention to the actions. Lupe is a kindergarten teacher at Travis Elementary School. And let me tell you, and we call this award Hero for Kids, and we do that for a reason, because we try to pick people who just go above and beyond the call of duty for children of this school district. And I cannot think of a better example of any of our teachers who have gone beyond the call of duty for children than Lupe Ramirez. I want to tell you a specific story. I can't go into great detail, but I just tell you this is what great teachers do, and Lupe exemplifies that. Her kindergarten class, and you guys know kindergarten is like herding cats every single day. But Lupe has such a relationship with her kids. She absolutely noticed that one of her children had been absent for 2 or 3 days in a given week, and had been having issues, had been just been a little different at school. And so she took it upon herself to call home and wanting to know how the child was, just asking the normal questions that teachers ask of parents and caregivers. And after those conversations, Lupe just kind of knew something was not right. And one thing led to another. She went through our process of making sure that the child and the children were all right. And again, I can't go into detail, but I will certify you today, she probably saved the young man's life. And that is what teachers do, and we could not be more proud of you.
Pleasure to present this award to you, and thank you for all your leadership on that day. I really appreciate it very much. Oh, there's pictures.
Yeah, we got to have a picture. Lupe, thank you for everything. Thank you very much.
Next is a public forum, and as of this moment, I have 2 folks that have signed up to address the school board. As a reminder, I think both have signed up for an item that is on our agenda this evening, so the board members, you are free to ask questions if you have any questions. As a reminder to the speakers themselves, there is a 3-minute time limit. And Mr. Hernandez is the official timekeeper. Hopefully that time limit will not be a problem for you. But the first person that signed up, I believe, is Jennifer Turner. Ms. Turner, if you'll come down, please. And thank you for coming this evening, and thank you for your interest.
Hi, thank you. I'm very ashamed to say that this is my children's 3rd school year, and this is the first board meeting I've come to. I didn't realize what I was doing when I said, I have a question. He was like, it'll be fine, just go up there. Okay. In concerns to the magnet schools, Ms. Shearer did an excellent job of explaining why they are looking at the proposed changes that they are doing to the magnet programs. I just kind of had a thought today and haven't really put much thought into it, but I was like, what about our kiddos? Because I have a kindergartner and I have a 4th grader. Our younger children, would they take into consideration doing anything for siblings that will still be doing the after-school program? Because it does kind of become a hardship having to split the kids, one here, one there, and it may come down to me not being able to have my son in the after-school program because of issues with my daughter not being able to stay as well. So it was just something for consideration.
So let me, if I may ask you a question. Are you speaking of your children at Bowie
Yes,
right
sir,
now?
I'm sorry.
And so the proposal affects the kindergartens through 4th grade?
3rd, I believe.
3rd grade. And so the 4th grader would be able to participate, but the kindergartner would not. So that's your question.
Correct. Would they consider doing maybe like a smaller consolidated program just for siblings, not for the kinder through 3rd graders open population in the magnet schools, but just for the siblings of the children who do stay for the after-school program?
All right. And that's a question you have?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, we will make sure to ask that question during the presentation.
Thank you. Sorry, like I said, I wasn't very prepared. It was just a thought.
That's
Just
all
like,
right.
"Go
No,
out there."
that's great. Thank you. All right, thank you very much. We will make sure that question gets answered. All right. Next, Suzanne Bingham. Ms. Bingham, if you'll come forward, please. And as I understand it, your topic 2 addresses the Bowie after-school program.
Yes, it
All right.
does.
Please go ahead.
Mine's kind of a follow-up with hers. My name's Suzanne Bingham. I have a son in the 1st grade here at Bowie. I had a daughter who was here, but now she's gone on to junior high. One of the reasons we decided on a magnet school was partly for the after-school program, because we were paying hundreds of dollars a month for a shuttle to pick up our child to go to daycare for 1 hour. So this is going to be a real hardship on our family. My husband's been a firefighter with Midland Fire Department for 20 years. He's on 48-hour shifts at a time, so he's going to be gone 10 days a month. I'm a social worker for the state of Texas. I work 8 to 5. We're not sure how we're going to get him at 3:40 and take him somewhere yet. We don't have any family here to help. Kind of wondering why the older kids get to continue and the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, well, the young, have to stop. And big concern for her, if you had an older child and a younger child, what are you supposed to do? We're told the YMCA is not an option, and the bus may not get to our home school until like 6:30. I'm not going to bus him for hours to get home at 6:30. And the bus schedule won't be posted until the 1st week of school next year. So I don't even know if that's an option yet. And I understand maybe the other schools are keeping all of the grades still get to continue their after school, and maybe have like 1 day off a month or 1 day off a week. So I was told that it's a good idea to come and bring comments. So I was just giving you some concerns for the families that it's really going to be difficult to try and pick them up at 3:40 and find something to do with them. So, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We will take those up too during the presentation. All right, any others that have signed up to address the board this evening? All right, well, thank you, Ms. Bingham, for coming, and thank you, Ms. Turner. I'm going to keep the notes. All right, thank y'all. I know that's not always easy, but thank you for your comments. All right, we'll begin with our agenda item 4A, District Reports, Internal Accountability System Update. The report begins on page 5 of our board packet.
Team, we said that as you allowed us to adopt the internal accountability system, we told you we were going to bring you regular updates on the data that we've been collecting. Elise and her department, along with our T&L department, have done a great job tracking as we knew we would with our system. And so Elise has the most recent update for you. Elise?
Good evening.
Evening.
This is basically a mid-year update to go through the information as Dr. Warren just stated. See if I can figure out how to work this. The first slide that you have in your packet shows where the initial information that we provided you back in the fall about where we're going to be looking at, what we're going to be looking at, and the direction that we're headed with all of the internal accountability targets. I'm not going to go through the specifics of this slide. I'm going to jump right into the data. So our first target was attendance rates. We wanted to improve from 2014 year of 94.7 to move up to 96% for this school year.
Begins on page 5. Now
That presentation's not in here. Now, we can look at it right here, but it's not on here.
Yeah, I don't have it in mine.
it's on their board book online. I didn't know.
Download.
At least I know it is because that's the one I'm on. But
Yeah, I just did the download, but page 5 is James Reagan's deal. So we'll go here? Okay.
Sorry.
You happy to do that?
I should have told you that in my letter. Go ahead, Elise.
Y'all ready? Just want to make sure. Okay. For attendance rates, as I had said earlier, we're looking at moving to 96% for this school year. And you have first, second, and third 6 weeks, semester 1, which was at 95.1, and then the fourth 6 weeks. So you can see we're making some gradual changes and positive movement within that. The attendance rates are monitored each 6 weeks, and campuses that have areas that need to be addressed are being addressed by their executive director. Now, the early reading indicator was also one of the primary targets that we had, and we measure the early reading indicator not only in the fall but also in the spring. Please note that this slide is different from all the rest because on this one we're looking at a reduction. So we wanted to reduce the number of students eligible for accelerated instruction by 16 points. As you can see, we are making some progress on that. For the fall, the earlier data, we were at 36%, and we've already reduced that to 23.6 for the fall, this past fall. So we are making positive movement in the direction that we wanted to go, and we will also be reporting more information on that after the kids are assessed this spring with this end of year.
And team, I really want you to pay attention to that. I mean, that's a lot of work by your teachers, by your T&L staff, by your kids, by your parents. That kind of reduction in the need for kids having accelerated instruction, that's a win right there.
This is kindergarten through second grade, English and Spanish speakers. So it's a lot of kids. Our next three indicators in the internal accountability system are based on STAR performance. Obviously, we don't have STAR results. We start that in the coming weeks with smiles on our faces. And as we move forward in that, what I want you to understand is what we are measuring through the district checkpoint data is that we are looking at performance, we're looking at individual student progress, and then we're looking at advanced performance, level 3. We're looking at all of those, and we look at it and we monitor through our district checkpoint data. And then we're also looking at what we do with the lead forward instructional strategies and how are we assisting kids in the classroom with interventions and enrichments. And then additionally, the PLC implementation at our 18 campuses is making a big difference in what's going on and the discussions that are occurring on the campuses as we monitor the collaborative time for how much planning is going on that is impacting positive student achievement, the instructional delivery that's occurring, and then the inclusiveness of all teaching staff. PLC monitoring is actually one of our other components of the internal accountability system, and inclusiveness of all teaching staff. The campuses where we see all teachers involved in those instructional discussions and decisions, we're seeing positive movement on those campuses with what's occurring. Whoa, wrong button. Hi, Nick. Thank you, Nick. Okay, graduation rate. Graduation rate is always a target for us, and as we look at graduation rate, the class of 2014 was at 82.4%. And as a target, we had made 86% as one of our targets. And I can tell you right now, although we cannot give you specific graduation data at this point, I can tell you that all points are on target to meet this goal. We don't publicize the graduation data until later, but I can tell you everything that we're looking at, and I asked Ms. Acosta 1,000 times before she resigned where we were on this, and she gave me positive preliminary data. So we're looking like we're on track to meet that goal. For PBMAS, one of our targets was to improve in each of the areas. You have been given updates. The last one was in February by Monica Hernandez, and she's been able to tell you the positive things that have been happening primarily with our task force teams, which are listed on this slide. They have all been meeting their quarterly goals. They are meeting on a regular basis. Their activities are definitely on target and headed in the right direction with what we want to do in the school district to impact student learning. And the positive TEA exit interview that we had was definitely a plus. And we felt better than we've ever felt with a TEA visit in regards to that and PBMAS as a whole. The community and student engagement, as a target, we wanted to score 1 as a district. We scored a 2 last year. We call this CASE, and CASE is a campus responsibility. It is based on targets that they set on the campus, and they have ongoing review of their indicators, and then CEIC creates a rating from that. Their campus instructional team creates a rating, and then those are submitted at the end of the school year. From that, the aggregate score for the district is decided. So our results at the district level are solely based on what our 38 campuses present. So I'll be able to give you more information on that later in the school year. But I just wanted to let you know, because this is coming up. This is fixing to be a big campus activity. Advanced placement exam, our target's to improve to 50%, 52%. The registration window's open right now. AP exams begin in May. Same time EOC exams go. Dual credit courses, our target was 90% of our students having successful completion of those courses. What you can see up there is in the white target is what we had for the entire school year at 84.8% last year. We had set a target for 90%. What you see in green, the 88.1, that is where we are only with this past fall. So we are making forward movement in the dual credit course completion. So we want to maintain that positive track for the spring so that we can hit the 90% target. Professional learning communities. We have had 12 district-level trainings conducted for our 18 campuses that are in implementation. We've had over 98 campus-level trainings conducted. We have continuing discussions with the campuses about the 4 questions surrounding PLC and learning, and what do we expect from our students? What do we expect them to learn? How will we know when they've learned it? What do we do when they haven't learned it? And what will we do if they've already learned it? And while we go through those questions with the campuses regularly, then we know that those discussions are occurring on the campus PLCs. And what we've done is, from one of the consultants, we received a rubric. And our 18 campuses that are implementing that submit where they think they are. They do a self-reflection, and they submit where they think they are on this rubric. I can get y'all a larger copy if you would want one at some point in time. I can give that to Dr. Warren to send you. But basically, it's a 1, 2, 3, or 4 for that. We are just beginning to learn this, and we're getting there. Literal, which means we're really getting a grasp in it. Refinement, we're beginning to take some ownership and moving it toward our own beliefs. And then internalize means we have a full grasp of it, and we're really moving forward and making it match what our needs are on our campus. And you can see just with the fall semester, those campuses rank themselves at basically a mode, as Mr. Horner states it as a math teacher, at the 2, and only one area in a 1. And based on the information that we're garnering from our consultants, this is a positive reflection on the implementation course within those 18 campuses. Any questions that you have, I'll be happy to try to answer, or Mr. Jones will join me at the podium to answer, and or all executive directors for TNL will be happy to answer any questions tonight or anytime.
Will the number of campuses participating in this process increase?
We would like for it to, but it's solely based upon budget discussions.
Okay.
And James was for 18 this year, and the others next year. And if we're able to do that, that is the plan. No, Elise's team has handled all 18 this year, and they've led them through the process, and it'll be the same. It'll be the same. I mean, we have multiple principals who were not part of the initial group who recognize how great of a program this is, who have started the process themselves. So we're going to dive into it. We believe in it that much. This is one of our legs of the program.
We have not left any campuses out of any of the discussions. Trainings, it's only the 18 campuses, but discussions, we're pushing as much information as we can to all campuses. Boy, I can tell you the executive TNL staff would be all over that.
And so when we talk about the budget implications, we'll talk about that later when we talk about budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Glad to see the progress. Hope it continues. Thank you. All right, agenda item 4B, district report, district attendance boundary report.
Team, as you know, the biggest surprise of the school year has been our enrollment. From what we budgeted for, and those staff members who have been in Midland a lot longer than I have know what usually happens during those years that we don't see oil prices where we want them. This is the year that we broke all records for attendance, and we're still about 200 kids more than we were this time last year. You allowed us as a district to do something last year that we had not done in 22 years. We redrew every elementary attendance zone to incorporate 3 new elementary schools and to just accommodate, because Midland grew in different places over 22 years. As I said in my letter, in my article to the community this weekend, I would love to tell you we got 100% right. We did not. So James's memo is in your packet, and he's going to take you through a presentation. And tonight is for you to listen to the presentation, to give your feedback, and then that will give us guidance on where we go from here, exactly what kind of changes that we are going to make and what kind of actions we're going to take to make sure our buildings are being used efficiently for now and in the future. So Mr. Riggin, please.
Yes, tonight we have multiple answers to some of the questions that we are going to propose. When we set up the boundaries, new boundaries, when we all looked at the new boundaries, we employed a firm, Park Hill Smith and Cooper. Jay Edwards is here today. Where are you, Jay? Okay, you moved from me here. We employed Park Hill Smith and Cooper to study and analyze our current boundaries, and then propose the addition of the 3 new schools and how we could utilize balancing our boundaries. With looking at what we did in that process, actually what we ended up was extremely a very good plan. And we're going to go through the fact that we are looking at possibly a couple of tweaks at the elementaries that we might want to look at for this next year. And then we will be looking at a staff discussion that we're having within MISD internal staff on some secondary or junior high boundary issue, balancing SJ and Goddard. So that's kind of a twofold plan or a presentation report that we're going to give you tonight. One of the issues, if we can go on, let's see here, and the technology is, Tom, help me out here. Here we go, okay. Okay, this is in the PSC, and you have this in your information. This is a document that PSC has generated for the 2014-2015 school year. This is kind of where we started. And then they did a proposal for us to align our new schools in this column here. And then about the 3rd or 4th column over here, in this area here, 2015-2016, this is the actual enrollment that we are dealing with today. And you can see the areas, and for schools, for our staff, these reds are giving us heartburn. These are scaring us, the red. And we look at Bonham, Burnett, and we look at South as being overcrowded. They're in red. They're above 100% usage for the facilities. The thing is, though, that those numbers there are exactly where we are today. And we do have a few schools that are look like they're overcrowded. Some of those schools are using and currently using portables to accommodate that growth. One of the things, though, that with this plan is the live-in, and this is what the demographers and PSC, this is the column that is so important for future planning. This is what we're dealing with today, this column, but for planning, this is actually the column that we need to be looking at, and I'll give you reasons for that. When we made the adjustments to the boundaries, there are several children that are living in various areas within the city that have did not make the lifestyle adjustments or the adjustments to the new boundaries as we would have immediately liked them to make. They may be still attending the school through a transfer process that they wanted to attend or attended in 2014, okay? It is the contention of our demographer at PSC that these are the columns that we need to be looking at, because over a period of 2 to 3, 4 years, some of the issues that are making our schools look overcrowded here are going to refer back to the live-in where they should be going and where naturally they would go as they move up in the system when someone else goes to school from that area. They would go to the boundaries as was laid out. So when we look at that, this is a knee-jerk column. We can adjust this column this year for next year, and more than likely we'd be coming back to you year after year after year and doing a knee-jerk adjustment. This is the column to allow the neighborhoods to balance out over a period of time, and these numbers are what we need to be planning for and looking for minor adjustments that we see. If you look at the demographers' numbers and you look at where they expect the live-in population, we have issues with 2 schools, and that is with Yarborough. It's over 100% expected usage, and as y'all know, Yarborough is a high-growth area. It continues to going to be a high-growth area because of a lot of the new development that is going to be in that area. The other area that is a concern is Milam. It's with the current boundaries and the configurations, we are going to underutilize that building, okay? This one here, Yarborough, is a little bit more immediate because even at this year, we are at 92% usage. But in years to come, live-in, we're looking at that being at over 120% usage. So we will have, based on the demographers' usage, we're going to be having portables at Yarborough, possibly within the next year or the next year. With that being said, if you can go to the next page here.
Ask some questions.
Sure, please do.
Before you get off of that, because I've got 3 or 4 questions.
Okay. Jay, you can help me answer these.
Well, I want you to explain both sides of this equation. If you just take a look at Bonham there, you've got 117 of enrollment utilization versus their live-in utilization. So that tells me that you've got a lot of kids coming in that don't live in that boundary area. Is there a reason for that? Is it because kids are coming in for various programs, whether it be bilingual? I know the early childhood movement that we did, is that the reason that number is that a thing?
Some of those are that, and some of it is it's a very a neighborhood that the boundaries did change, and they elected to from outside that area, they elected to come in to that area or transfer or stay at their school that they were at last year.
Okay, but did we create our own problem there by approving the transfers?
We have approved some transfers based on parent requests that seemed reasonable and seemed appropriate based on child care, based on other factors that were acceptable to the district. That's where the demographers say that those kind of issues over the years will cease.
Jay, we greatly reduced the number of transfers that we approved from previous years. I mean, when we told people we were going to do that during this entire process, we told people we were not going to be approving the same number of transfers. A lot of the ones that we did do were just child care where the kid just would not be able to be cared for after school. But compared to the previous years, we did exactly what we had told the public that we were going to do about reducing the number of transfers.
In fact,
And
our
that's something-
transfers did decrease. Our current, and the next chart, when we get in, it's going to be a very detailed chart, but that chart indicates that our current transfers is 19% of our student body elementaries. 19% of our kids are using a transfer process. Years previous to that could have been up to 25 to 30% transfers.
All right, so what about programs? I've only heard one issue that created it, and sounds like we created ourselves. We approved transfers.
Right.
So we're not going to deal with that particular one based on what you're
And that's what the
suggesting.
demographers say. That's a
Okay.
knee-jerk reaction. You're serving those kiddos now. Is their recommendation over a period of 3 or 4 years. That should balance out to where it's going to be, let's take Bonham, it's going to, instead of 117% over a few years, it's going to be within the capacity of the building at 94, and they're going to be utilizing 94% of
Your
the
hope is
existing
it'll thin
building.
out. And
Yes.
I would presume 90% is probably an optimum utilization.
We
All
could
right, next.
we could make knee-jerk reactions and change it
Gotcha.
now, but all we're going to do is move
Gotcha.
it around, and
go to
we'll be dealing with them every year.
Gotcha. Go to the next one, Yarborough. It's the flip of that. You've got live-in utilization of 120, and they're only using 92, so that's telling me you got a lot of students living in the Yarborough district that are moving out.
They've gone to they're going back to their school that they were going to before.
Okay, so
No,
the
we had
theory
no
of-
students in Yarborough.
So
and,
the theory of kids wanting to go to the newest schools didn't pan out.
Well,
They've gone
it panned
back.
out for
Is
a
that what I'm hearing?
good portion of them, but there are some that want to continue to attend the school that they were
Wherever they
attending.
And that makes sense. I mean, everybody's got their choice. And then my third and final question would be on Milam. I mean, the utilization would be because we've had to allow transfers out of there anyway. And until that improves, that situation, we're going to continue to have transfers out of there. So that utilization may never improve.
We're going to show where when that 77% of utilization right now that's somewhat filling that building, that's one of the areas we're going to show that's going to be underutilized, because a lot of the kids that make up that 77% are actually coming from the old boundary across Big Spring to attend Milam. And we've got some things in here that.
And that's what your
then that's that shift that
map is.
if,
Okay.
and the same holds true, if this goes for 3 or 4 years and they start attending where the boundary shows that they should attend, then that 77% is going to decrease to 55%. And we're going to, we are not going to be utilizing Milam in a way that we should be utilizing it. So we're using
You're
the
saying
same
that
philosophy.
If you don't make the boundary change.
If you don't make the boundary change.
Okay.
Now, this isn't
Thank you.
critical that we look at that this year at Milam. It's not something that we may be recommended that we make the change now, but it's going to, we predict as the years go on, we will be seeing that we are utilizing that building at about 55%. And so the decision would be, okay, do you make the change now? And we'll show that some of those kids in an area that we're talking about, if we put it back, they'll be going where they would wanted to go anyway, or where they're going now.
Okay, thank you.
Some of them.
Do we know how magnet schools impact these numbers?
Well, if you remember, the magnet schools were taken out of our boundary issues
Right.
this time, okay? Before, our boundaries had a very unusual boundary lines, and they were split, and they did consider those boundaries, the old they kept Bowie.
No, my question is related to the students that go to the magnet schools, how where they live impacts these numbers. Not the,
Please do, if you have an answer,
Yeah, it's a good question. The boundary, sorry, I've gotten tongue-tied now. the magnet schools are pulling students from all over the city.
Right.
And we have done a analysis of where those students are coming from. And the good news of that study is that it's very well distributed across the whole city. And so what we have determined is because of that fairly even disbursement of the students coming out of it, it's not really affecting any one location over in an area that we think would need to be changed. And
Okay.
so these charts do not include those magnet schools because
Right.
we're assuming it's kind of affecting all of them somewhat equally.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Warren,
Sir.
even given the budget constraints that we are trying to address right now, down the road, it seems to me one of the solutions to the Milam issue would be to look at creating it as a magnet school or academy that would function in basically the same way as our other magnets as it relates to attracting students from across the city. And that would hopefully impact the numbers.
That could be something that we could look at, Mr. Fuller.
I would
And
suggest
following that reasoning, then at this point in time, if that was something you wanted to study down the road, it would probably be best that you wouldn't even think about changing the Milam boundary at this time, because you would be affecting fewer people if you did make that change in the future. We're going to go to the next, this next graph, and Jay, this is about the most crazy graph there is, a graph and slide you could ever imagine. But down here at the bottom, yeah, please do. Down here, I want to point out a couple of things, though, to it first. It does show that we have 19, down at the very bottom down here, it shows that we have 19% of our children within the elementaries that are transferring. And we just made the note that of that 19%, that number in past years has been higher. So we have reduced our transfers based on the changes that we made on boundaries. That's positive in my opinion, okay? So we do not have more transfers, but we do have fewer transfers based on previous years. This chart, and Jay's going to go into a whole lot more detail, but I do want to show you one thing. If you'll follow Fannin across here, on the left-hand side, that says where students live by zone. So if you look at Fannin, and if you take Fannin across here, and boy, I apologize for it being so small, but if you take Fannin across to where it intersects with Milam, okay, you will see that there's 74 students that are currently living in the Fannin area that are electing to attend Milam. Okay, so when we start talking about the Milam
That's
area,
the other way around, James.
okay,
No,
no,
they live in the Fannin district or zone and they're attending Milam.
they're attending Milam.
Through a transfer.
That's why we say, as this goes 3 or 4 more years, those 74 children will, yes, that's who's attending now, to boost up the Milam 77% attendance that's utilizing that building. But as those families change their lifestyle and they start going to the area that's in the zone that they are, that number will decrease naturally. That's why I'm saying we've got 77 kids that currently live in the Fannin area that were in the old Milam district that are continuing to go to Milam. Yeah, that's why Fannin's at 104% there. This chart shows all, if you want to dig down into the chart, you start looking for high numbers in the chart, and that's the ones you want to start seeing the issues. And I'll point out the Fannin and Milam only as a prime example of what we're going to talk about, okay? Now, Jay, you explain your chart any better.
Well, it is difficult because you have students moving in and out of their attendance zones. And so what this does is try to capture in a snapshot what the net result of the transfers in and out are. And so if you stay with that example that James was talking about at Fannin, and you look, we call it a live-attend matrix. And so if you look at Fannin on the left-hand side in the row that goes across, starts with the number 26, and then has a 2, 1, 5, that row across there. Is everybody with me? Okay, what that, as he said, as you get across there, that's how many students actually live in the Fannin district, or the Fannin zone, but attend a different school. So 26 students who live in the Fannin zone, the new zone that we've created, attend Bonham, so on and so forth. If you go all the way across on that column to the far right side, in the gray, you will see that 618 students live in the Fannin attendance zone, but 165 transfer out of that zone. So essentially 27% within the Fannin live-in zone transfer to a different school. Now, if you go across the top where it says where students attend school, and you look at Fannin, and then you go down the column on Fannin, that is telling you how many students are transferring into Fannin. And so if you go to the bottom of that, well, you see where they intersect. It's 453. It's kind of shaded gray. That's how many students live in Fannin zone and attend Fannin school. Of course, that's the largest number of any of the numbers. But you get to the bottom, you actually have 518 students that attend Fannin, and this was based, I believe, on the last census of last semester. And you have 65 students that are transferring in to Fannin from outside of the zone. So right now you have 165 transferring out, you have 65 transferring in, so you have about a net 100 student loss currently. But again, Jay, what we were talking about in talking about the programs, the programs that we've identified at each of the campuses has been factored into these percentages based on the capacity of the building. So if we have a high number of special ed programs or other ELL programs that have a smaller student count per room, the capacity of that building has been lowered. So the percentages still kind of work out. So we've kind of taken into account the programs already. Really the largest reason that there's a difference between the live-in and the actual enrollment is because of the transfers. Now, last year you had nearly 30% of your students, nearly 1 in 3 students were transferring to a different and y'all have looked at starting that process of eliminating that. You've grandfathered in, existing students and some siblings and some things like that, and that's lowered to 19% just in 1 year, which I think is extremely significant reduction in 1 year. And so you've made positive impact to that, and we do see that as those students that were in K through 6 last year start to kind of grandfather out over that cohort moves through over the next 5 or 6 years, we'll see fewer and fewer of these percentages of transfers if the district continues that policy.
Okay, related to that, Crockett and Days of Allah both have large percentages of transfers out. But when you look back at the schools and how it impacts it, Crockett, it doesn't impact it very much, and Days of Allah, with basically the same percentage, it impacts it quite a bit. Could you explain that?
Let me look at, so Days of Allah has 194 students transferring out, but only 43 students transferring in. And so their net migration of students transferring out is about 150 students. So that's really affecting the utilization of that building currently.
And we did make some significant changes in the boundaries to Days of Allah this
What'd you say, James?
We did make some significant changes in the new boundaries to Days of Allah. So again, that may be the fact that they want to continue to live, go to school where they were originally going to school last year.
But that's what I meant. The Crockett one, it says 36% are transferring out, and Days of Allah, 32% are transferring out, but it impacts it pretty significantly differently when you look back at the live-in and the projection.
Well, and again, that's the transfer out is similar percentage-wise.
Right.
But if you look at the transfer in, Crockett has
Okay, I
Only
see where you're
17%
going. I
versus 26.
understand.
There's
Okay.
more kids that are going from
Okay.
outside the living zone currently. So that's why that really, we think over the long period of time, over the next 4 or 5 years,
Yeah, I
the
understand.
the projections of what students live within that zone will be more impactful than what the current enrollment is.
Okay.
Because that transfer policy will continue to drive that number down.
And the reason we shared this with the board is that it does start answering or ask some questions or answer some questions of why and how come. You can start rationalizing some of that, just like the 74 kids that are transferring out of Fannin into Milam. And then you start looking at the map and see the changes we made, all of a sudden you understand why. So it makes sense. So that's the reason we shared that for you. And I don't know that I want to spend a whole lot more time on that. Jay,
James, I'm going to ask another question because I think this helps with what I was trying to say about Milam. You've got Milam, you've got 217 transferring in, and you've got about 86 transferring out. So you've got a net inflow, and you still are at 70, what was it? 77 utilization. So that's why that 55 is.
That's why it's, if they follow and they change and through the grandfathering and attrition, it goes out. In the next few years, we may be underutilizing that school. Yes.
There's just not, in that attendance zone, the projections for that many students in that zone right now, in the future.
Given the history we've had, I would have thought it would have been the flip, that there would have been more out, not in.
the PEG transfers also to those that we can't, the parents that have not met.
Yes.
That was my exact point, is I would have expected more out, but you got a net inflow at Milam.
Well, when we get to showing you the area, I think you'll understand it in a minute. It's, there's two things on PSC's report that they believe the school district and the board need to look at, and that is balancing Yarborough, Scarborough, and Travis a little bit. And I think the recommendations that we're looking at here make a little bit of sense. And so, and then we need to look at the Milam-Fannin issue that we'll talk about. So we're gonna move forward to some graphs next, and we're gonna talk about how we can possibly adjust the Yarborough boundary, current boundary, and this is the current boundary. I'm sorry, my fingers are not working too well, but this is the current boundaries of the Yarborough attendance boundaries, attendance area. And it takes in a part of the South County across Interstate 20 here. You got Business 80 across here. You've got the Loop 250 that borders it on the east. You've got 191 that borders it on the north. And then you've got Avalon Avenue that borders it. And Avalon is a new street that's bordering it on the west, yes. And actually, I am incorrect. It's not Avalon. That's even farther. That's a pasture out there.
Yeah.
That's a pasture. This is Avalon right here. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
It's a mile marker.
Yeah.
Right there.
But basically, what you're seeing here is every purple dot that represents either a mailbox with lots of students, or it's a mailbox that has one or two students at a household that has a student. So if you would count up all the students at those various dots, you'd have a current enrollment at Yarborough of right at 715 as of this last Monday. And that building, as y'all know, was designed for a maximum, if everything aligns, of 800 students, okay? So we're utilizing that. So that's the current boundary. If you were to consider adjusting this boundary to alleviate possible future overcrowding at Yarborough, what we would look at, and this is an option, is to take an area within the map that's right here. This is Airline Mobile Home Park. Airline Mobile Home Park, and there's only 3 dots in that, and so that goes against what I just said. 3 dots is a mailbox area, okay? So with all 3 of those dots, there's probably, there's 206 students living in this area that attend Yarborough. It's the recommendation that, for the board to look at is this area in the previous year, 2014, 2015, and prior, actually attended Scarborough, okay? We moved them. We moved them and put them in the Yarborough attendance zone. If you look at moving those 206 students into Scarborough, it would include those, and you would add those kiddos into Scarborough. This slide here shows the existing boundaries of Scarborough, and so we just show where that is. Okay, this is the proposed boundaries with Scarborough student. Yes, okay. Now, we just said put 206 students from Yarborough to Scarborough. If you do that, that's actually going to overcrowd Scarborough. Scarborough currently has 526 students. If you put 206 students in there, you'd end up with over 735 students. So we're back increasing and overburdening Scarborough. So that creates another issue. The other issue is, okay, the recommendation is that we look at the east end of the Scarborough attendance area, and we look at an area between County Road 130 and County Road 140, between Garfield and Rankin Highway. And in that area, we've got approximately 151 students, and we would recommend that you make the PSC would recommend that you make two adjustments. One is that you move consider moving the airline mobile home students, it's 206 students, to Scarborough. We're overcrowding that. We've possibly put that school right at 100%, so that's not good. But if you utilize and put some students back into Travis, then that would help make more room into Scarborough, and then put those kiddos that in this part of, I'm sorry, this mouse is hard to work. In this area here, we would utilize putting into the Travis School District, and then this is what would be the proposed balancing numbers. And then if you start looking at the utilizations over here between Scarborough, Travis, and Yarborough, that's
They're all right at 90 to 100%.
90 to 100%, 94, 95, and 100%, utilizing those kiddos. So that's what we're looking at to study there to balance those three schools. Jay, do you think?
Yeah. We were a little nervous about Travis and South and some of those schools being overcrowded. We worked a lot on trying to change those boundaries, and still if you'll remember, one of the guidelines that you had as we drew the new boundaries is you wanted as much as possible for the boundaries to be contiguous. You wanted them to be able to attend the closest school in their neighborhood, not pass a bunch of schools if we didn't have to. And we think this helps with those students are much closer to Travis than they are to Scarborough. And Travis has the capacity for them in the way that the demography is coming out. So I think it might be a net positive for those students to go to a much closer school, and then the students that are at Airline Park would be going a little bit further to Scarborough, but that's where they've historically gone, rather than to Yarborough, which is this is their first year to attend. So I think we're still trying to honor those guidelines that you had set up with these recommendations, but it kind of balances out where the growth is happening.
Of course, with this year and any change, it's a change, unfortunately. So it becomes a change that people get used to this year. They're used to it, so it's a change. So it's not going to be, and it won't be easy, but it's this is the only thing that the PSC is recommending that we consider adjusting is that Yarborough, Scarborough, and Travis boundaries.
And so why was there not a recommendation from South to Travis? See, South would be at 80% and
Well,
Travis is at
if we
100.
look at if we go back to that first slide, one of the first slides, oh, yes, we have an immediate problem with South. Right now, it's we've got 8 portables at South. We have 8 portable buildings at South, and this is our current, and we're at.
Yeah, I'm talking about in the future.
Well, that's why I'm going to try to say is that in the future, we believe after things level out and people start going where they should go, that building should be utilized at 80%.
No, but Travis is 100%. That's why I asked, why was that not part of the suggestion?
Well, go ahead.
Well, we're trying to balance the immediate problem and the long-term problem. If we transferred students into South now, it would just exacerbate the current overcrowding condition that it already has. And that may take 4 or 5 years for that.
To get to the 80.
To get to that 80%. Okay. So we felt like that might be an undue burden for those.
Okay, thank you.
The next part of this is the Milam issue, and if we go to the Milam discussion. Okay, if I can do it without. Okay, this is Milam. This is the current Milam boundary that was modified and changed. Again, using the same parameters that we talked about, not trying to cross major streets, which this is Big Spring Street right here. Big Spring has always had a very, we felt like a crossing right in this area here to go to Milam. Actually, we felt like was not a very safe crossing. So we elected not to cross there. And as you can see, this is the current area right here where we have a lot of students, of those 77 transfer students, that have elected to continue to attend Milam. So one of the areas, if we recommend, and if y'all look to try to balance out Milam attendance now and to make the change now before everybody gets entrenched with it, we would recommend that you consider where we already have a lot of people that are transferred, incorporating, this is North Pecos Street that rolls through here, and we look at taking the boundary line from Big Spring, moving it west back to North Pecos, which you could see would encompass several students that are currently through transfers going to Milam that if you made that choice change this next year, they would probably be acceptable to that. Does that make sense? Do we have to make that change this next year? No, we do not. But with this change, I'm sure there are some students in this area right here that are attending Fannin. You would change their boundary. Okay? But 77 students, or there's a 60, I believe 60 of the 77 students are in this area right here that are attending Milam.
You would still be in a position with that PEG transfer. If they were in that zone for Fannin and you move them to Milam, they can still transfer back.
Yes, yes. So that would be the proposed boundary that we look at to make that adjustment between Milam and Fannin. And then the next chart would, if you took that recommendation, then you could see that you would balance the live-in for about 80% at Fannin and about 79% at Milam. If everybody in the next 3 or 4 years started going to where these boundaries, or these recommended boundaries, if they were changed, would go. So that's
You still have a long-term issue with Burnett and Days of Olive, then, don't you? Potentially Travis, long-term issue, because you're still over 100% with those. But a portable or
not as bad as 10.
Yeah, you're at, we felt like, when it's at 101 or 103%, you know, it's not an exact science guessing where people are going to live, but you're probably going to be pretty close to your capacity. But when it was at 120%, that's a pretty good indication that you're probably going to start to see some problems, or 55% on the other. Those are they're so far off of 100 that we felt like it might be wise to go ahead and try to address those earlier than later.
That's the elementary side of this report. And before I move to secondary, do we have any comments or suggestions for us to continue to study or to continue to look at that would come to mind? We're not through
Questions,
study. We're not
comments
through
on the
study.
elementary proposals?
All I would say again is the proposals themselves pose a challenge for us as a district to address the future of Milan. If in fact we're going to make sure that citizens' tax dollars are being used to the max, I think considering that school for a future magnet or academy would be relevant to addressing that issue.
A lot of merit to what James is saying there, and I would agree with you. I've seen schools that have changed overnight by putting programs in them, and I know Lubbock High School is a perfect example of that. And it changed overnight, and it's a very strong magnet math and science program today. And I think it has merit to consider doing something down the road. I don't know what other magnet school programs are we missing today.
I would tell you this too. I believe Milam is night and day in what it was. I mean, you have a staff over there now, a principal over there, who are really, and parents and kids who are really doing, this is a very good year at Milam Elementary School this year. We really like the way, with what we're seeing going on over there. But no telling what the future holds. I mean, just the ability to say we're giving more choice to parents is a very powerful message to send to the community as well. You know, with just the pride we have and the excitement we have around our 3 magnet schools that we have right now, just on the issue we're talking about tonight, I tell you, we really like providing that choice to parents, and providing another magnet opportunity could very well be in our future.
The next area we're going to do is a report or a study of the junior high, and we've put this map in here. This is the current boundaries of our junior highs, and if you can look at the overall donut of Midland, a major portion of that donut, which is the tan area, is Goddard attendance. I'm just going to point out that is Goddard that's in the light tan. The light green area in the middle of the city, throughout the middle of the city, is SJ boundary, okay? So, and it encompasses basically the center of the whole of the donut, and Goddard is the donut out, or outside the donut, actually. And what we have seen through our staff analysis is that our projections, staffing-wise, this next year and attendance area, looks like to have about 1,200 students that will be attending Goddard Junior High School this next year, and we're looking at approximately 700 and just a little over 700 that will be attending the SJ.
And the existing facilities, James, with the portables at Goddard, what is the?
Well, we're at Goddard. You know, we could handle with the 15 portables that are currently at Goddard. We could have about another 25, 50 students, but that's it. We're
there.
We're there.
We're at capacity.
We're
and what I wanted to say about this board is I I really don't want you to officially change any attendance lines. We're not going to dive into the secondary lines until we have come up with a plan on how to address all of our secondary needs. But we did want you to be aware, we have done administrative changes over the last several years on this, and I wanted you to be aware of this. We're really approaching that critical mass at Goddard that we need to shift some kids over, not across the lines, not across purple and maroon, but definitely between Goddard and SJ.
The next slide basically shows the current 6th and 7th graders in our district, this is next year's student body, that are in the Goddard attendance area, which is in the tan areas. And you can see all the dots that occur in those tan areas. They're very heavy and very dense around the perimeter and interior of the city. But all those green dots are where our students are. And we are projecting, staff is projecting 1,200 students. This just shows live-in with our in-house GIS shows that, and our student database shows 1,237 students that currently live in the Goddard attendance area that would be attending Goddard next year. Okay. Staff is their analysis says we're going to have 1,200 there. So we're going about it two different ways.
James, I had a question because this map's kind of hard to tell. Everything that's in gray, that's in the city center there, is that
Lehigh?
still part of, is that what that
Well,
is?
excuse me, that's one of them
That's
is
part of SJ,
Alamo. The gray area is Alamo. And then the
Purple or whatever? Zabel?
in Abel, yes. The gray area is and the light blue area is Abel, and the
So gray is Alamo.
the gray is Alamo, yes.
Purple or light blue, you're
Yes.
saying is Zabel.
Mhm. And we're not looking at changing any cross boundaries at all, because the feeder systems pretty much balance. The Goddard SJ total count and the Abel Alamo count pretty much balance. If you look at if you go to our next slide, this is the current 6th and 7th grade students that are living in the San Jacinto boundary, current San Jacinto, and that's the green area. And when you look at that green area, you start looking at all the red dots that show up in the green area. And we have basically 783 students that show up on our GIS, students that would be attending SJ. Okay? It's a recommendation of our administrative team that we look at 100 students, somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 students, that we could transfer from Goddard into the SJ. That would help balance. SJ is limited to that building at maximum with the 4 portables that we once had on that campus. We could basically put a maximum of about 850 students, and that was very, very full. But we could put at SJ, currently they're about 723, we could add 100 students to that school and have approximately 825 students. And we would reduce the Goddard attendance or student body count from 1,200 students to 1,100 students. That's what staff is recommending. Now, we have, in the next several slides, realizing that, we've identified about 5 or 6 areas within the city that we could make a change of taking students' boundary area and moving it from Goddard into SJ. And I'm going to run through those. We do not have a recommendation on any one of these options. This is truly just GIS information. It does not represent test data, demographics, or any of the things that the staff needs to dig deeper into before we make a recommendation to the board, okay? And so, but as far as a graphics guy and a graphics department, we've tried to find 100 students in an area that we could contiguously make into the SJ boundaries. So what we're looking at here, again, green is the SJ boundary. We are looking at one area that we could look at would be taking the old interstate, Highway 80 here. We look at the I-20, and this is the new Legends development here, Trade Winds department here, Trade Winds area here, apartment areas, the theater that's on the there. Again, we look at the Airline Mobile Home Park located here, and we take it all the way to the farthest boundary by Odessa. In that area, we're looking at 141 students in that X'd out area. That's one area that could be considered, that could be moved from Goddard, currently Goddard attendance zone, to the SJ. Another area that we could look at is change that scope a little bit and just look at the Legends area itself, and the apartment the large red lines, P lines here that show throughout the city. If you see those are high-density apartment areas. Okay, so if you see those and wonder what those red areas are, those are mostly for high-density apartment or town home living. But you can see that we're looking at 77 students in that area that could be considered. Another area that we looked at was, again, if you just look at the Airline Mobile Home Park area and the Trade Winds apartments, those kiddos in that area are 45 students in that area. The next area we looked at is more central and central city area. Front Street is right here. Again, the SJ boundary is in light green. If we looked in an area that boundaries on the east with Lamesa Road, boundary on Pecos Street on the west, and if you look at a boundary line of Hicks on the south, you're looking at an area of approximately 126 students. If you were to move that line up to where you said we wanted 100 students, then you would take a line in the next slide that would show, again, boundaried on the contiguous current border with SJ. You look at Lamesa Road, Pecos Street on the west, and you take a street that would be a fairly New Jersey street. In that area, we're looking at right at 99 students in that area that could be transferred, change that boundary, and go from Goddard to SJ. And actually, when you look at that on a map, those kiddos right now that are in this are bused across the SJ, past SJ to get to Goddard. So this, with some of our thought process from years past, we'd actually be transferring them to a school that's closer to them. Another area that we looked at was if you go back on the west side of town and you look at the, basically this is the Henderson attendance area, where you look at Bentwood and Graceland, Henderson being right here. You have some apartment complexes in this area here. And with that, we're looking at 130 students that would be in the Thomason Drive area here, Midland Drive on the east, Business Highway 80 on the south, and Loop 250 on the west. And you've got 133 students in that area. And the last area that we looked at for consideration was the area that's in the Burnett attendance area currently. Burnett's located right here. Again, that area is Thomason Drive, located here, Business 80 here, and Midland Drive on the west. Students in that area, you're looking at 62 students that would be in that area. We do not have a recommendation on this report for those 5 or 6 areas. It'd be our recommendation you allow us to look at the demographics, the academics of those. The 2 principals would like to make sure that any decision that's made by the district doesn't adversely affect either population of Goddard or SJ.
Questions or comments? All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, agenda item 4C, financials. Those reports are on page 42 in our packet. Are there any questions about that information? Hearing none, we'll move on to 4D, the list of bills, which begin on page 49 of our packet. Any questions about those? Hearing none, we'll move to 4E, the budget workshop. Dr. Warren?
Okay, team, can you see? Is it up on the screen? Okay. Board, one of these years, I'm going to come to you for this initial budget discussion and tell you all is right in the world, and this is not the year. I want to give you this report just so that you'll be thinking about our challenges moving forward. None of this is, please understand, none of this is the gospel. This is our guesstimates depending on what the values will be when they are certified by the appraisal district. So we're going off of everything that our appraisal district is estimating right now we could look at. So just as a, as a reminder, we have three components of Texas School Finance, and I will tell you this. Those of you, and many in the audience may not know this, you know, MISD was one of 600 school districts to sue the state 2.5 years ago because of the way the Texas does fund Texas public schools. We hope, knock on wood, that we may be weeks, maybe days away from an actual ruling. We needed to get the March primary over with. We've done that. Texas has held its primary. 3 of the justices were up for re-election. All 3 won their primary, so there should not be even any runoffs. So maybe within the next 2 to 3 weeks, we should be getting a ruling from the state Supreme Court. The good thing for us is, at the district court level in Travis County in Austin, the presiding judge, Judge Dietz, did not say that parts of the finance system were unconstitutional. He felt the entire system was unconstitutional, not adequate or equitable enough to go forward in that. So we're hoping that we're going to have a full-scale change in the next 2 years of the Texas school finance system. The challenge we have in Midland is we will still be under the same finance system for this next budget cycle and maybe another one moving forward. So I want to take you through this. I do this for you every year to show you where our numbers lie right now. There's 3 drivers for our revenues from the system: taxable values, local taxable values, our local tax rate, and the average daily attendance that Elise described in her presentation. All right, let me give you slides that could take you through the challenges we have for each of those drivers of our revenue. The challenges we have right now for our for our taxable values, this is the big one, okay? Right now, we have a certified value of a little over $20 billion that we derive $204 million to fund this year's budgets, the 15-16 budget. Here are the 3 estimates that the appraisal district has us looking at right now. First case scenario is that we have a decrease of 10% of those local taxable values down to 18. We're going to lose about $2 billion, which for us would mean a loss of $21.4 million from our usable revenue. 10% loss in values would equate to $21 million of revenue loss. If it goes up from there to 15%, would take us down to $17 billion, a $3 billion loss. Our revenue loss would go up to $31.8 million, almost $32 million, more than a $10 million difference. what we hope would be a worst-case scenario from the appraisal district, if we lost 20% of our values, we would go down another $1 billion, and we could see a revenue loss of more than $42 million. Now, all of this is, of course, driven by the price of oil. We were able to maintain the $20 billion for the 15-16 budget cycle. We were able to maintain, and they even showed a little bit of growth because we started the year with oil at a high rate. We've gone too long now, for too long, with oil below 30, right at 30, hovering around the 30 to 40 range. So we will see, everyone who thinks they know, we will see a downward trend in our taxable values for that. So those are the scenarios that we're working off right now. David really doesn't think that we're going to see at least even a no change to this. We do think we're going to see a decrease. Correct, David? All right. Here's the second challenge with our local tax rate, and you guys know this, but our local tax rate, right now we have most Texas school districts have two tax rates. If our maintenance and operation M&O tax rate is $1.04, that's what pays for everything in the district. Mostly it pays for staffing. 85% of our M&O budget is people. It's salaries and other things that go into the benefits for all of us, and then it pays the gas bill, the water bill, everything. If a district has sold a bond like we have, if a district has debt, most Texas school districts have debt, and they have an interest in sinking rate, INS. We have a dime, a 10-cent INS, for a total rate of $1.14. The challenge that we have, like most school districts in the state, we are capped now at $1.04. The state of Texas, probably about a dozen years ago, probably about 10 to 12 years ago, separated school boards from every other taxing leadership board in all Texas communities. City councils, county commissioners, water districts, hospital boards, college boards, those board of directors can look at the needs of their entities, and they can set a tax rate that best meets the needs. As long as it does not go too far over what we call the effective tax rate, they can set appropriate tax rate to meet their needs, especially during times when you see a value loss. School boards in the state of Texas cannot do that. We are capped by statute at $1.04. Anything else over $1.04 has to be ratified by the community's electorate. You would have to call a special election and ask for however many pennies you think would need, and that has to be approved not by you, but by the taxpayers and the voters of our school district. The hard cap is $1.17. By statute, even if a community wants to give more pennies to a district, the hard cap by statute is $1.17. So we have 13 cents more we could access, but we would have to ask permission to do so. And then our last driver is ADA, and we have targeted this, and as Elise told you, we're making progress because this last school year, 14-15 school year, we were about 2 percentage points below statewide average, and we really needed to stress to our folks that the kids need to be in school. So we're working on that, and that is improving, and we like seeing that. All right, so those are the revenue drivers. Okay, there's where we are right now. To give you a status of our property wealth status, of course we still are very property wealthy. The threshold for property wealthy, and Jeff, I don't know if I really explained this to you adequately, you being the newest member of the team. There's only 2 chapters of the Texas Education Code that deal with finance, Chapter 41 and Chapter 42. If you're a Chapter 42 school district, you're a balanced budget district, meaning you basically receive about adequate funding, well, not adequate, but about the same funding from the state as you do from local taxes. Chapter 41 is you are considered property wealthy, which means the vast majority of your funding comes from local taxpayers. And if you have if you're over a threshold that we call wealth per pupil, and the threshold is $319,500 wealth per pupil, if you're over that, you are a Chapter 41 district. We're about 700, so we are very Chapter 41. We are very property wealthy. For those of you who remember, in 13, we started cutting checks. In 13, we paid $15 million into the system. In 2014, it was 33. In 15, it's been 47. And depending on the template and depending on the situation, we could look at a maintenance of 47 million all the way up to 58 million, depending on how our numbers come in for this next budget cycle. So we have to make room in our maintenance and operation budget for this payment. So that goes away from our programs, our children, our schools, to the state of Texas to comply with the equity laws of the finance system. Okay? Okay. Now, let me take you through several scenarios, just I want to make sure you understand where we are. All right, scenario one is that 10%. If the appraisal district comes back and says, MISD, you're going to lose 10% of your values, which means we will decline from 20 billion to 18 billion, all right? Our district revenues will be about $182 million that will be available to us, all right? Total revenue, and Jay, this is going to be the first time I'm going to be able to say this since you and I have known each other, our state funding is actually going to increase next year. ASATR, ASATAR funding was put in place years ago when the state of Texas mandated that the school districts reduce they compress the tax rates. This is available, additional state aid for tax rate reduction. It also works the same way for a reduction in the values that we're seeing. You are the leader of a school district, unlike most of your peers. Most of us in the school world in Texas do not have to deal with the fluctuation of values like we could see because of our gas and oil values. But you lead that kind of district, so we will see some increases in state funding. The problem is two issues with that. Number one is it definitely doesn't offset what we lose, and number two is next year, 16-17, is the last time ASATAR is available. So we will only get it for 1 year. And there are districts, smaller districts around here who have lived on it for years, and they are definitely facing some really, really harsh times because it's only around for 1 more year. So our revenues, that will be our revenues based on a $1.04 tax rate. Initial appropriations, and on the place where you're sitting, I gave you all the spreadsheets that we've been using. You have all that in front of you, including this PowerPoint, but the actual spreadsheets that back up these numbers. Our initial appropriations are $232 million. Guys, that is just to maintain what we have now. That is not planning for growth. That's not looking forward to more kids coming into the district or trying to grow programs. That is only maintaining what we have right now would be the $232 million. So that, and that includes $47 million, almost $48 million back to the state. We have an initial budget deficit based on if the deficit comes in, if the reduction in the taxable values is 10%, we have an initial budget deficit of over $25 million just to maintain what we have now, okay, the appropriations, okay? Let that soak in because it doesn't get any better. All right, scenario two. Scenario two is the 15%. If we lose $3 billion of values because of the decline in oil prices, our revenues will go down to $172 million from $182 million. We will kick in about $7 million more of ASATAR money, so we will get more money back from the state. Our appropriations will go down a little bit because of the decline in the revenue. Our check back to the state will go down a little bit. It'll go down maybe about $3 million. We will only owe $45 million back to the state. So with a decline in $15 million of taxable values, our deficit to maintain goes up at about another $400,000. Okay? And then the worst case scenario we have is the 20%. If we go all the way down to $16 billion, our revenue goes down to 161. Our ASATAR money goes up to $21 million. Our appropriations will go to 226 because we'll probably see about another $3 million reduction in recapture. And then worst case scenario on the 20% reduction is we would have right now we would have a $26 million deficit between what we need to maintain our services right now and what our available revenue would be for next year. Okay? Okay. Here's where especially our staff get really, really jumpy when we start talking about cuts, because we've had to start right after Christmas knowing what the values could very well do. We started looking across the district. And I'll just tell you this right now, and we are not panicking by any stretch of the imagination. We are not panicking. It was gloom and doom this time last year. If you remember my speech last year, it was gloom and doom last year, and the values actually came back much higher than what they thought we were doing. We're just getting ready if. This exercise is getting ready if. So we have identified cuts across the district, and we have 3 scenarios. The least amount of cuts that we could see going is about adding another $10 million of cuts across the thing to our appropriations. Mid-sized cuts would be almost 15, about 14.5 million. The worst cuts that we could come up with is almost $18 million. That would be, 10 million would be bad. 10 million would be bad. 18, if we went up to the worst cuts, it's going to be an ugly. If you remember, we've been doing a lot of things. I mean, we've been cutting for years because of the rise in the recapture payment that we've seen over the last 3 to 4 years. We've been cutting for years, but we have kept it just as far away from the classroom and our staff as we could possibly get it. We've kept it away from that. We have reduced. Mr. Riggin has lost over 200 positions in just support staff, maintenance, custodial, lunchroom staff, bus drivers. We have written those positions off the book and have stopped funding those positions because, as important as those positions are, they're not classroom. We don't have many more support positions like that to cut. We are that point. So I just wanted to show you just some of the big ticket items that we've looked at across the district. We have, knowing how hard it has been to really show our support staff and getting to retain them, we've funded $1,000 a year for the last couple of years. David, last 2 years or 3 years? The last 3 years, we've given an extra incentive to support staff of $1,000 to keep them on the job. That's $900,000 that would be there. All the way through these things, these are the biggest ticket items that we could come up with. One of the things that we are very proud of is our benefits that we provide. This board, you have made the decision to keep our salaries moving forward and moving up because of the challenge it is just to live in Midland over these last several years. And one of the things you've provided wonderful benefits to the staff to being able to do that. One of the biggest ticket items is there $3 million if we ask all of our staff to contribute $100 to their health care. Most districts in the state of Texas do that already. We never have. So it would not be out of the ordinary for schools in the state and districts in the state to do that, but it would be an impact on our staff to do that, especially those support staff members whose paycheck are not the biggest in the world anyway. So I just wanted you to see the elimination of staff members, the elimination of FTEs will hurt. We are in a growing school district, and we're talking about cutting staff. That's not the direction we need to be going. Elise did a really, really good job of describing to you the positive review that we got from TEA about how we support campuses, how we support instruction, how we support teachers. A lot of that has to do with the coaches, the instructional coaches, ELL coaches, the special ed staff we have. If we had to eliminate coaches in this school district, putting them back into the classroom to protect classroom sizes, if we had to eliminate jobs themselves, the positions themselves, that would academically, we would be moving backwards. We would, all of this here goes into those 3 scenarios, the $10 million cuts, the $14.5 million cuts, and the $18 million cuts. That's where all these numbers come from. That is a step backwards for us. But I just wanted to let you know this is what we've been looking at and just identifying if we had to, that here's where the cuts would come from. So I just want to make sure you understand we have the plan. We just don't need to be talking about this now as we're finally, as the data you just saw from the internal accountability system, we're moving in the right directions on these, in these academic areas. We don't need to be moving in the wrong direction because of funding cuts that would be mandated by the lack of revenue. Sir?
Thinking that this will impact significantly the student-teacher ratio
Yes, sir.
and subsequently our instructional program?
I just told one of our staff members what I would like to commit to our staff, and I'm going to actually put this kind of a road show across the district. I'm going to call some meetings with staff just so that they can see the same presentation that you've seen. What I'm going to commit to us is that we will not get in the position of rifting, that we will not tell people they don't have a job with the district because we can't afford the position. What we will do is make those cuts through attrition like we always have had and just not hire back. Once you do that, James, those numbers of kids per classroom will start going up. And you can tell the 3 elementary EDs and Mr. Horner as the secondary ED, they've identified what they would have to do to make those kind of cuts. That is the only reason why we would even think about putting the coaches back into the classroom, because the coaches spread out across the district providing direct support to the classroom teachers has been a phenomenal instructional gain for us. But those are master teachers. Those are some of our very best teachers in the district, and they will go back in the classroom if need be to make sure we can protect the classroom sizes as much as we can. All right, so I'm just going to give you some scenarios about what if. Okay, if we do the scenario about the 10% and we maintain the $4, I've showed you the $25.3 million. Now that is in red. Some of us were a little colorblind this afternoon. I won't name names, but red means deficit. Okay, that is in the red. All right. Here's the assumptions that we're having, and I hope I'm right from your viewpoint in these assumptions. You allowed us to use $10 million of our fund balance for the 15-16 school year. Our budget, the money that the state was taking away from us was more than we could come up with in our revenue. We knew we needed to maintain some services, so you allowed us to use $10 million. Through excellent budgeting process, we've identified $3 million of savings from that 10. So we're going to use $7 million of our fund balance to balance this year's budget. So that means we still have 3 left over that I need you to give me. We really need to maintain that $3 million for this year's coming budget to be able to do what we need to do. But here are the challenges. Here's the budget right now based on the 10% loss of taxable values. All right. Here's the columns. You have your least amount of cuts, the 10.2, the mid cuts, the 14.5, and the worst possible cuts we would have to do, almost 18. All right. So there's the initial deficit, the $25.4 million. All right. If we make those cuts, we're still very much in the red. We're still working off a deficit budget. And using the fund balance, that's what it gets us down to. So making the worst possible cuts in this school district that we could think of making right now, we still have a deficit budget of $4.6 million at the $4 tax rate. Okay? If we go to the second scenario, which is the 15%, it gets worse. And then if we go the third, the 20%, it gets even worse than that. So if we lose the 20% of our values, worst case scenario, we still have a budget deficit of $5 million after we have used the remaining part of the fund balance that we need to use. All right, so the only thing, and I did the same thing last year, and I'm going to do the same thing this year. The only way to gain more revenue is a tax rate rise, and the only way to do so would be through an election. You cannot call for a tax rate rise. You can call for an election to ask the electorate for that. The scenarios are about the same on that. A 10% loss with, and let's just go up to the very max, If the electorate in Midland allowed us to raise our M&O tax rate from $1.04 to $1.17, 13 more cents, the deficit without it is to 25 million. The deficit with it is still almost 12 million, meaning we don't have enough pennies left in the system to actually balance our budget without cuts. If we decide, if the values come down the way they are talking to us about it right now, there aren't enough pennies to maintain the services that we have right now without cuts, because we can only get it down with the maximum tax rate. We can only get the deficit down to 12. All right, so with the least amount of cuts, the $10 million, it would still be in the red, and we would need a fund balance to get it down. If we put the whole $3 million in it, that we would be in the black. We would be in the black if we cut the $14.5 million, we would have a balanced budget, or if we made the worst cuts, we would have a more of a balanced budget for that. On the 15% loss, we could get the deficit down to $13 million and then enact the cuts. For the least amount of cuts, we would still be in the red, $2.9 million. With using the $3 million of fund balance, we could then be in the black by just a little bit under $100,000. And then the worst case scenario. So, worst case scenario is that. So, I have no idea what these next few months are going to hold for us. David has done a great job. David has a wonderful relationship with our appraisal district. He can call those guys on the phone anytime he needs to. The appraisal district is doing a great job communicating right now. They're holding community meetings. They're holding meetings with all the taxing entities, preparing us for what might happen. So we're going to continue to work on this. Again, I'm going to be communicating a lot to our staff, to our parents about what could happen. And mainly it's really staff. You know, you've got a lot of staff who are worrying about their positions, a lot of staff who are worrying about their programs. We have a lot of great programs. Maybe I didn't put them on the list, but there are programs that we've looked at that have just identified that we might have to cut to be able to, again, to balance that budget. I just wanted you to know the numbers right now, what we've been working with the appraisal district on. And then as we move forth from the budget, with the budget process, we will continue to hold budget workshops. We'll probably throw in a couple of special meetings for these budget workshops. And as David refines those numbers, and again, the kicker is that taxable value, we will make a plan of action to bring you a balanced budget, as we always do. Again, the main thing is we're not going to panic right now. We do not know what the numbers are going to look like on those certified values. We're just going to do our jobs and we're going to do the work. Questions about anything of this?
I can't even do the math. Won't even go that high. 20 billion, but 13 cents on 20 billion only gets us about 10 million.
That's the net effect of your recapture payment, because essentially you lose because
you're going to lose a big piece
because
of
you're
that.
generating more tax collections. You lose on recapture side.
My goodness, if that doesn't incense people of Midland that we can't even raise the taxes without part of that going to the state, it's almost double jeopardy.
That's a real challenge for Chapter 41 districts. And when they have to raise their tax rate, then that increases the amount that we have to pay the state on that recapture side.
I don't know where you go. I mean, this is horrific to think that we could go to the maximum tax rate and still be 11 million short in a 10% drop. That's
One thing I'm going to do, we have a new Commissioner of Education. He's a former board member from Dallas ISD, Commissioner Morath. The superintendent of schools from Ector County, Tom Crow, and I are going to seek an audience with him in the next couple of weeks. Just like I said, Jay, there are very few school districts that have to deal with this kind of fluctuation in values. Other communities just don't. It's just because of our industry. But you put on that the recapture payment, and then you put on that, and I'm gonna be very I'm going to be very honest with him, the comments that his staff made to us about the progress we've made. 3.5 years ago when they came in, 3 years ago when they came in, they did not like what they saw. We did not have the support system set up. The instructional programs were not where they needed to be. They were astounded this time what we've been able to build. This one budget year has the potential of doing away with all that if the numbers go. So we're gonna have a little chat with him just to talk about what can TEA do for us because we're in such a unique situation.
Well, your only livelihood is that the state does something from a funding standpoint, because you've only got 2.5 years of savings account, is what I would call savings in that fund balance, to cover those kind of deficits.
Absolutely. And you are not sitting on a board that was able to really pad the fund balance because of the rise of values, because that was recaptured at the beginning of that cycle. So.
Any other questions or comments?
Grossly unfair. I'm sorry.
All right, I've had a request for a short break, restroom break, I believe. But before I do, I want to incentivize us to go through the consent agenda real quick. The consent agenda items are 5A, minutes of our regular board meeting on February 8th, minutes of the town hall meeting on February 23rd, minutes of the special board meeting March 2nd, our budget amendments and transfers, and quarterly investment report. Those are items 5A through E. Do any of those items need to be pulled for any reason this evening? We'll come back and address them, if so, after the break. All right, hearing none, they'll be deemed approved by consent. We will now take a short 5-minute break and be back to address our action items, beginning with 6A.
hurt you. Bye, sweetie.
All right, we'll call the meeting back to order. Action item 6A will be discussion and possible approval of 2016-17 board meeting schedule. The proposed meeting schedule is on page 110 of our packet.
Team, I would recommend approval.
Board, you have the dates. I'll entertain a motion.
Can I have a quick question?
Yes.
You know, last time we had a spring break snafu, and that's taken care of here, I assume?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I move approval.
Motion by Ms. Nicholson, second by Mr. Robinette. Any other questions or discussion? All right. All in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you.
I actually think it was Mr. Isaacs that caused the snafu in the first place. But
Okay. We'll blame it on him.
All right, action item 6B, discussion and possible approval of magnet school plan.
okay, if my lovely assistants back there would, not them. After school MISD, right there. There we go. Okay. Okay. I'm speaking very briefly, and then our three experts, our three building principals of our magnets, they are going to get up, they're going to introduce themselves to you, and then they're going to go through the presentation that they did for parents, that they've worked on for quite a while, and just kind of gives you the rationale on why we're looking at this change. So what we asked them to do, every year, the task of our MISD building principals is basically to evaluate every possible aspect of the educational setting to determine whether we're really adding value to whatever we're doing, to any program that we're doing. So that's what we ask of our three magnet school elementary school principals, to look at everything they do. And the after-school program is just one small component of what we do at the magnet schools, but we asked them to do that, and that is what got them started talking about truly the after-school program during their analysis of their entire campus. The rationale is basically, we asked them, is the after-school program as it stands right now truly doing it and complementing what we do at the magnet campuses? So that's what we asked them to answer for us, and the presentations they're going to make to you are recommendations that they feel really need to be infused into their campuses and into their programs, and it's all about the specialness of the campuses. We want to make that. We have so many parents who sign up for the lottery every single year to get into our magnet schools, and we want them to give them the very best services. Benet from the math science angle, Gabriel from the communications and technology level, and then here at Bowie with our fine arts. And this is a testament to how much we are invested into our magnet schools. We've had the three great programs of construction to further the magnet school concepts. So they're going to go. Who's first? All right, Lori's going to come up, and she's going to do the Bowie presentation, and she will stay up here until all of your questions are answered, and then we'll move on to the two Ps, and then finish up with Washington. All right.
And let me ask each of the principals to please begin the remarks by educating us as to what information has already been provided to the parents at these 3 schools, whether it be through written or in-person meetings. If you'll incorporate that at the start of your remarks, and then you can give us a presentation that I presume has been presented to the parents in those fashions. Thanks.
We actually gave this presentation to 3 different groups of our parents at Bowie, 2 during the day and then 1 after school. So 3 different groups of people that came were able to see this. They were invited, every single child in the school took home a letter to invite parents to come and see these programs and discuss them with us. And we also posted on Facebook our 2 marquees, so they were aware of it.
Just give it a second or two. And approximately how many parents actually came and participated in those meetings?
The 1 after school, I would say between 40 and 50 parents came. During school, probably about the same for both.
Okay. All right. Thank you for doing it.
Lori, introduce yourself to everybody.
I'm Lori Sherrod. I'm the proud principal of Bowie Fine Arts Academy, and I really appreciate this wonderful facility that you gave us at Bowie. This is amazing to be able to be here tonight. Thank you. Okay, on with this. Sorry. I'm not sure which one of these.
Yeah, that right there is the, we'll just advance it on your right click, yeah. I don't know.
Okay, they can do it from back there. In order to continue offering high-quality activities, programs, recitals, and shows, we would like to modify the after-school program to only be available to students in 4th through 6th grades at Bowie Fine Arts Academy. This will not affect the fine arts activities that occur in our classrooms every single day or during the day during fine arts. Our students at Bowie receive a minimum of 225 minutes in fine arts every week during the school year. That's kindergarten through 3rd grade receive 225 minutes a week in fine arts programs, and then our 4th through 6th grades get actually 300 minutes a week, and that's during the school day. The 4th through 6th grade students are the students who will benefit greatly from the after-school experience because they are working on becoming experts in the 2 fine arts activities on which they have chosen to focus during their final 3 years at Bowie. All after-school classes will be housed in the fine arts wing and will rotate every 6 weeks. Right now, we rotate every 12 weeks. Our school day will still be from 8 to 3:45, and we'll have after school from 3:45 to 5 o'clock and have children picked up by 5. At this time, we only have 4 students that would be affected from not receiving transportation home at 4:45, and so we really feel like we could alleviate that from occurring at Bowie, and the reason is twofold. Number one, some of those children all year haven't gotten home before 6:30, and 2, the transportation, they do a really good job, but it's not consistent in every single day. We can depend on them to come at a certain time. So kids get home at different times and their parents end up waiting, or they think they've missed their bus or whatever. So I think that would be very helpful for us if we could all dismiss on buses, children that ride buses at 3:45. Our fine arts teachers, we have 5.
I got a
Yes,
question.
sir.
Back up on that. What, are you talking about K through 3?
Mm-hmm.
That there's only 4?
No,
K through
after-school students that would still be riding the bus, that ride it this year, that would still be riding the bus next year
Okay.
at 4:45.
Thank you.
Our fine arts teachers will be the lead teachers in our after-school classes next year. We have 5 full-time fine arts teachers and 2 half-time fine arts teachers. They would get support from our core teachers to be able to do their classes with validity like they've been doing them. And that's it.
And Lori, that was a good presentation. Go into a little bit more detail of why we feel this change is important at Bowie.
Yeah, specifically, let me ask you, specifically regarding their speakers, I kind of take them in reverse order because they went kind of from broader to more specific. Why eliminate the after-school program for K through 3? And what about the accompanying daycare problems that causes for parents that may have children in 4 through 6, but also have younger children here at K through 3?
That's a good question. We did come up with some very positive changes that we anticipate by changing the after-school program, and these are changes that we came up with, the three of us as principals. These are not just for Bowie. We feel like it will allow for more collaboration between our teachers on campus, which is something they don't have now because they're actually with students from 7:40 until 4:45, and then the dismissal lasts till 5:15 usually. It would allow teachers to attend district and regional in-services during the school year that they may not be able to attend. A lot of them start at 4 o'clock, and our teachers' regular school does not dismiss until 3:45, so they sometimes can't make those after-school professional development classes. We also feel like it would allow for more co-campus planning that we're not able to do now. For example, I only have one 5th grade math teacher. So my 5th grade math teacher might be able to collaborate with Pease and Washington's 5th grade math teacher because they're the only ones on their campus that teach 5th grade math. And that's something that we could do as well. We could also focus more effort on students during the school day, not just, because right now my teachers are planning for two complete different days, basically. We really run 2 schools. We have the during the day academic school, and then we have the magnet school. So it would allow them to refocus their efforts just on the daytime school. It would allow teachers more time to plan to enhance their daily lessons. They would be able to refocus efforts on the actual school day with emphasis on the magnet themes. And I think that the personnel we have would be better able to meet the demands of the school day. And also, I believe that we could retain our quality teachers a little longer because it is a long day for them.
Is there a staffing problem in staffing the after-school program from K through 3?
Yes.
Elaborate on that. What are the challenges?
About probably 2/3 at any one time of our students are in the after-school program. That's 17 classes going on every afternoon. If we alleviated 10 of those, that would allow for 10 more teachers to be working on academic activities. The other 7 teachers are all fine arts teachers. So in essence, that really would help us with our K through 3.
And address the daycare. What about the daycare problem caused by eliminating younger siblings K through 3?
We actually have looked into bringing the Y over here or Campfire over here. There's not an opening for another school, but we do have daycare buses that come here. We have the Y bus comes here, Heavenly Days, Peppermint Patty. It comes here and picks children up from after school at 3:45 and from after school at 4:45 and takes them to daycare. So there is the availability for children to get to daycare if that's what their parents choose. We just can't house it here.
Would that be an extra cost or an extra expense to those parents? So that would be an extra expense to those parents for the daycare. And I guess the next question would be, so how many parents, I'm sure there's several parents that are going to have to go, that are going to have to, that have the younger children that's going to have to go to daycare. We're probably talking about 20 to 30 parents. Is that a high number? Is that a low number? Or do we have?
Who would have a sibling?
Pardon me?
Who would already have a sibling?
Yes,
in
the one that's going to be going to daycare.
We would have to research how many of our children actually would have a younger sibling. But we have probably 40, 45 kids in each grade level going to after school right now.
So would this be an instance where we might, I mean, I'm just asking the question, that we might be able to use, and I don't know what our shortage is on teachers' aides to where they might be able to help. If we need some teachers to go get some training, that they might alter that at some point in time of giving those teachers a break to go get some of that training, maybe not every time.
We've
But
had
some
a
of the times.
difficult time because the regular schools get out at 3:20, so they can't get over here by 3:45 usually to help us from other schools, and we're not able to hire teachers' aides to help in the after-school program. So we've actually looked outside the school and tried to find experts in some of our activities to help us. And we do have a dance teacher that comes, I think 2 or 3 days a week to help our dance program. So that helps.
I mean, I was just trying to find a happy medium to where it wouldn't be at an extra expense to parents that were trying to alter their kids, and some of them are working, like the young lady spoke on earlier, to where it wouldn't be a burden to them. I was just trying to be fair on that end of it.
Well, let me see if I heard you correctly, because I know Alice Friedline gives us a report once a year about the after-school task force or child care or whatever it's called that works with the Y and Campfire. And I know they have a sliding scale and some scholarships for some of the children that participate in that program. You said a bus from that program picks up children here already, or did you say they weren't available?
A bus from the Y picks children up. A bus from several different daycares pick children up here at Bowie. But we would not be able to have that program at our campus because they don't have it. They don't have the manpower that right now is what we were told to bring Campfire program or a Y program to Bowie. Right. Even though they could go to the the YMCA, but not here at Bowie.
So the training that you're saying that the teachers are missing out on, how often is this training?
I think district has training frequently.
Yeah, Tommy, the regular PD schedule is ongoing throughout the school year.
Right.
And here's the challenge we have at our magnets. You know, we have our educational program at all 3 magnets, but then we have the magnet school concept on top of that. And really, our teachers have an opportunity before the beginning of school to really do some training, but never during the school year, the 187 days or 180 days that we go to school. Just the 3 campuses of our magnets, not only do they not get regular ed training, but they don't get the magnet as well because they're with kids all day.
Okay, is this training, is it a lecture or is it a hands-on or?
Oh, Patrick, it's
hands-on.
Yeah.
Hands-on activities of professional development, instructional strategies, best practices throughout the school year. Because they're involved in after-school activities, they miss a large part of that ongoing PD during the school day.
Okay, so is it someone in district that's doing the training, or is it someone outside the district?
Both. It's the same thing, you know, Chevron has a huge training schedule that you have all your staff. We do the same thing, and the magnet school teachers, the way we have the system set up right now, because we're with 5 days a week, we are with kids until later in the afternoons, they just miss out on a lot of those training sessions. And that's what one of the aspects was, to try to come up with, how do we make sure that our staff is professionally trained throughout the school year, not only on the regular ed programs, but definitely the what makes them the magnet campus.
Okay, so do we do some of these trainings on Saturdays?
Some we do, yes.
I mean, don't beat me up, teachers. I'm just trying to find a happy medium for everybody.
When they're in class with students 10 hours a day, it's kind of hard to get up Saturday and.
I mean, I have to work some Saturdays.
So that would mean, because we would cost parents one more hour of childcare, you would have the teachers go on Saturdays. That's, you know,
I'm just trying to find a happy medium.
no,
for
I
everybody.
understand. You're asking good questions.
All teachers have an additional 12 hours, the equivalent of 2 days of professional development they have to conduct from May to May. Teachers that are not at a magnet campus have more opportunities, of course, after school. Magnet school teachers don't have as many opportunities. And yes, we do offer some PD on Saturdays. We call them Super Saturdays.
Okay.
Any more questions for Bowie?
How many, well, mine would be more for all three. How many kids are going to be impacted on this K through 3? And how many other schools in the district do we provide after-school daycare like this?
We don't provide after,
So it's only
we have
these three.
tutorials, we have those things, but it's always, you know,
So how did we get into a position of providing daycare then for these 3 magnet schools?
we don't provide daycare.
It's not intended to be daycare. It sometimes is utilized
It's
as
morphed
as
into
a
that.
side benefit as daycare.
Well, just as the mom said, you know, the after-school program is a draw for a lot of parents, not only just because they have the ability for us to keep their kids another hour, but we want them to be really ingrained in the reason why they chose these schools in the first place, the magnet school concept. So that's what's the beauty of these after-school programs.
Is the after-school program the only piece that's truly magnet-oriented?
No.
No.
So they get
No.
the whole day?
Yes.
So the after-school piece is geared to what? Is it just
It's more of
complementary to
a
what they
more of
were
a
doing?
laser focus on the skills that are associated with the campuses.
Dr. Warren, we're talking about consistency here.
Yes, sir.
I think one of the things that in the original intent of the magnet was academic focus, period. Consistency in terms of delivery. And ironically, I think parents in the final analysis saw the plus as it relates to after-school childcare, and that became the mantra as opposed to the focus being on academic consistency and quality. So that's where we are now.
Lori, good job. Gabriel?
Good night. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Gabriel Salgado. I am the principal from Peace. We conducted 2 public meetings, one at a PTA meeting. In that one, we didn't have that much people. It was about 5 families. But then we conducted a public meeting with about 40 to 50 families. We invited people using different, ways of communication. We sent letters home. We sent also a push note in our Peace app. We sent also emails and text messages. We also have addressed the situation with parents that have come in on an individual basis to come and ask what's going on because they couldn't make the meeting. So maybe we have already informed personally about 80 families, and the rest probably have heard word of mouth. So let me start with our, is it this one? Okay. So our goals. I don't know if you know, but Peace is a PEG campus. We're a campus of focus. We received this designation back in 2012, 2013. As opposed as the other 2 magnet schools, we have to focus more on the academics. So part of our goals is to increase the quality of our courses overall in the academics, the regular school day, but also to increase the quality of our programs in the after school. We have heard from parents that they would like to see programs in the after school that target more our focus, that is communication and technology. We would like to provide students and families with time at home with their kids in order to do homework and big kids. That's one of the things we've heard from parents, and also provide time for the staff meetings and collaboration. In our school, these are the number of facts. We have a current enrollment of 557 students. Of those, 340 students stay for the after-school program, and 200, rounding up, stay from 3rd through 6th grade. We would like to keep our regular school day the way it is. In our regular school day, we have embedded already labs that address our focus, which is communication and technology. We do have labs in which kids can go to communication and technology classes. They can also go to FLES. FLES is Spanish classes, is foreign language classes. The way we do it is they receive about 270 minutes of labs every week. They go 1 week to communication and 1 week to Spanish. The next semester, they go 1 week to technology and one week to Spanish. So throughout the regular school day, we already have embedded some magnet school programs. This is part of our proposal. For the after school, we would like to make some changes. We would like to start at 3:45. Currently, we start our after school at 4 o'clock. We dismiss at 3:45 and we start until 4 o'clock. So we have a little snack time, but we consider that as downtime and we're not being efficient at that time. So we would like to start right away at 3:45. We would like to end up at 4:30, which will be equivalent to sessions of 45 minutes, similar to what we did in 2013, 2014. We would like to have after-school sessions on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, for grade levels 3rd through 6th grade, allowing for Wednesdays to be staff meeting days and PLC communities, the professional learning communities meetings that we're going to alternate every week. Why 4:30 instead of 5 o'clock dismissal? Because right now we do 5 o'clock. We have heard from different parents, mostly the higher grade levels, not the lower grade levels, but the higher grade levels. Some of the kids get home around 6:30. If they're in bus, mostly 6:30. Most of these kids, they have homework every day, and if it's about an hour of homework, they end up homework really late. So we thought we would provide parents with an opportunity of those extra 30 minutes to be able to enjoy some time with their kids. Some of the possible after-school sessions that we are planning to offer are newspaper production, which we already have started with that, but we would like to make it better. Video production, script or film writing, choir or musicals, robotics for beginners and advanced students, oratory, piano for beginners and advanced, marketing, coding in computers. We're going to continue with the American Sign Language. We're going to start it for 3rd through 6th this next year, but we're going to continue it for kinder through 2nd grade, but that's going to be embedded in the regular school day. Tutorials and UIL. So right now, our plan is to have 7 after-school sessions with a total capacity for after-school for 90 students. 3 of these sessions require 1 teacher, and we would like to have somebody external as a field expert to come and help us with those classes. And 8 tutorial sessions with a total capacity of 80 students, and a total overall capacity of 170. And that's my presentation.
That 170 is K through 6?
It's 3rd through 6th, ma'am.
So everybody's doing away with the K through 3?
I don't know about Washington.
No, just P's and Bowie. Okay.
Yes.
And the programs in the past, has there been a consistent time when they got out every day? Like you're saying they get out at different times and on Wednesday it's a different time. Is that unusual or has that been true in the past?
Well, last year we used to get out at 5 o'clock, but since the year previous to that, they used to get out at 4:45.
No, but I mean every day. Had you gotten out at the same time every day?
At 3:45, that's what you're saying? Or I'm having a hard time.
Okay, my understanding is that on Wednesday, there's a different release time for the children than on other days.
That's right, yes.
So that, to me, that would be a problem for parents getting childcare after school if one day it's one time and another day it's another time. And so my question is, has that happened previously, or previously has there been a consistent release time? Whether it be 3:30 or 4:30 or 5 or whatever it is, at least was it consistent?
Yes, in our campus we haven't had yet the Wednesdays. I know some other campuses may have, but not Magnet. But we would like to have those specific days for PLC meetings.
Okay, so this is the first time the inconsistency has happened?
Well,
or
yeah,
is proposed?
It may, yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Mr. Salgado.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Salgado, but for Ryder, I guess the way I'm seeing these presentations, we're talking, getting back to James's consistency issue. I'm seeing different time frames here to end times. I mean, just for these two presentations, we've got different.
Correct.
Each campus came up with their own
We,
plan.
we did not ask, Mr. Isaacs, we did not ask them to do mirror images of their after-school programs. We asked them to get with their faculties, to come up with plans that would work for that they thought would work for their specific campuses and their programs.
May I add to that a little bit, please? I think each campus is different and has different needs. Based on our focus, which is communication and technology, we feel, for instance, that we cover most of the magnet school component and the content for kinder through second during the regular school day. I mean, we have a lot of things embedded during the school day that we can enrich kids for their lives in communication and technology. But as kids grow up and they get older, third and up, communication and technology gets more, let's say, evolved. So we need to provide students with a little bit extra support with our programs. For instance, I mean, with a kindergarten student, you can teach so much about technology, but you cannot get probably to a programming type of situation. Same thing with script writing. I mean, you have to have specific basic skills already built up to start writing a script for films. So I know it's different for every magnet school. I think this will help some parents make a decision and have a different choices, but also is going to help each magnet school focus on their specific need and target in order to embellish our programs. Not everybody is the same, so we need to differentiate that.
Couldn't every school in this district claim that same issue? Lee wants to do things different, so they want to extend their hours versus Midland High and every junior high versus every junior high?
Sure.
I mean, why wouldn't we look for consistency? I'm not sure I understand.
Well, there's one thing about being consistent, but there's also giving a campus autonomy to do what they feel is the best for their kids. And in this case, we really felt it important to look at the needs of the specific campuses. We may have gone overboard a little bit on seeking consistency because we really had to focus in on some very specific academic challenges these last several years. But getting back to where we could provide some autonomy to principals and staff to be able to bring in the programs that they think are going to be the biggest. And the magnets are the greatest example of that, being able to know your kids and know what would be the best to go forward to really stress those magnet tenets.
Local control.
Well, and it's the after-school
Yeah,
programs
I'm
that...
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have my head around this at all. As far as what we're currently providing versus what's being asked of. All I'm seeing is that we've got parents, apparently, that are taking advantage of the school district by using this as a daycare program. Well, we're not in the daycare business, but I'm also into seeing consistent programs being provided to all of our students, and we have these beautiful facilities. We should be using them to their maximum fullest. Cutting out K through 3 doesn't maximize its fullest if they're here for pre-K, if they're here for magnet school program.
Right.
Let's do it. Get rid of this quasi daycare you're talking about, but let's maximize the time and space that we have available for these students and get a consistent program and not be fractured like this.
Being able to appropriately staff that and provide the training in which our staff need to be immersed in is the biggest challenges that we're facing right now. And that the reduction of kids in the after-school programs is not because we don't think that it's important for those children, and bringing those magnet school, more of those magnet school attendants into the school day so every child can do that is going to be most important, and one of the things that we've talked about as a team. But truly being able to offer the enrichment after school and do the rest of the things, that's the biggest challenge, Jay.
Okay, I have two more questions, and you may not know the answer to one of them. The first one is, are there, what kind of buses, as was told to us from Bowie, come to Pease? I mean, does Campfire or the Y come and pick up other children for after-school activities?
Yes, there's some buses that come for and pick up, although right now we don't have that many kids going there, but we have the Y and the Peppermint Plantation. Probably we can get more if we ask. I don't know. I mean, that's something we have to talk to some other providers to see if that's a possibility for them.
Okay, and this is the one you probably won't know the answer to. Do you know if they would come at different times, either different times of the same day or different times of different days, because of the different times that you're suggesting that you have the programs after school? In other words, would they come at 4 o'clock one day and 4:30 the next day?
And you're talking about the providers, right? Like the Y and
right.
You know, I don't know the answer.
I didn't think you would, so, okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Renee, please.
I'm Benae Newton. I'm the principal at Washington Math Science Institute. In terms of information to parents, we sent home a letter. We sent home emails through ParentLink. We had a meeting in the daytime that was primarily my PTA board, but also some other parents. And I think there were approximately 20 people at that one. And then we had an evening meeting with, I'd say, between 30 and 35 parents. There were a lot of children there, so I bet the library was very full. And we've had lots of phone calls, you know, when this rumor gets out. But primarily the response has been positive, so. Okay, so as Dr. Warren explained, our rationale is similar to the other people's. And I say we have 2 points, but I broke one of them into 2 parts. The first is the need for a little bit more time with our staff, or considerable more time with our staff for professional learning and collaboration, because when they do work till 5:30, it's a late time of day to start learning. And for us, and Washington may be a little bit unique in this situation, we really do need to refocus what we do during the day and then clarify how that extends to the afternoon. I think because our content or our focus is math and science and their core areas, it becomes a little harder for people to figure out what we do that's different. And so we have, you know, excellent labs and all those things, but people say, well, what's the magnet part? You know, so it's not as unique as it was 15 years ago. Okay, so this is kind of how it looks if you think about it in the after-school program. We're trying to do these high-impact research-based STEM learning situations for all students during the day and in the after-school program, and then we're trying to balance that with not having our entire staff teaching those classes. And so it is a balancing act, but I think there's a way for us to get to what we need to do. So the 2 solutions we came up with are pretty straightforward. We need to change the amount of time teachers are spending in the after-school program. And another thing we would really like to do is something that looks very much like what Bowie does, and designate a 45-minute period during the day for every grade level, so that, because they go to labs, but, you know, at different times and things. And if they had a clear magnet day or magnet period every single day, I think it would be easier for us to articulate to people exactly what that is and exactly what a child's going to get at each grade level. So that's something that we would like to do. We looked at it from all sorts of perspectives, and in terms of just the needed time for professional learning. And, you know, you could make a slight modification and just cancel programs one Wednesday a month, or you could do something in the middle and do, you know, 3 days a week, or you could just not have it at all. So we looked at lots of possibilities in that whole range. And so when we start looking at refocusing, this is what we'd really like to do. We'd like to have this 45-minute magnet period where we make explicit connections for each grade level. So at kindergarten, we like to be able to tell our parents, this is what your children are going to do in the magnet period during the day, and connect it to the general curriculum, and then extend it to the after-school program. And then we would also maintain our PE and fine arts block, and hopefully use the fine arts standards and transition to more of a STEM arts curriculum in that, or a STEAM, where you take STEM and add art. So it can actually enhance what we're doing in the magnet block as well. Okay, this is sort of a pilot we did this year. We sent 3 teachers to Texas Tech last summer for a week. And one of our kindergarten teachers went, and our 2 science lab specialists went, and learned everything there was to know about robotics. And it so happens that now everything that you want to know about robotics also has a lot to do with coding. And so we have really had a lot of success this year with that program in the after-school classes, with children learning, and we call it coding, but they're really moving squares around on an iPad, but it makes the robot move. So they're not coding like you think of with zeros and ones, but they're learning how to think abstractly about what they do on the screen and how that will happen later. And so we do have those programs going all the way down to kindergarten and all the way up to 4th through 6th grade. And then that's our competitive robotics team. The problem we see is that those are the only children that get that. And if they're coming to Washington, every one of them should be doing that. And that's the other reason that we'd like to see a change during the day. They obviously cannot, 420 children or 460 if we're full, can't do robotics every day. But they could all do a unit, you know, like maybe a 9 weeks or something during the year. And so, again, this is where we feel like this is a really good example of something that we want for all of them, not just a handful. We would like to sort of focus our magnet theme in the daytime and in the afternoon along strands. And instead of it being life science, physical science, you know, all that, technology, engineering, and math, we'd really like to focus it more along the habits of mind, the ways that children need to learn to think about science and technology and engineering and math. And then you can do that within life science or robotics or whatever. So we would like to do that. And then in the informal learning environment, which we think is what the after-school program is supposed to be, it's not supposed to be a continuation of the school day necessarily. It's supposed to be for enrichment. So 2 more strands that, you know, the research about STEM education says we need to really promote in informal learning environments is creating that excitement and that interest and that motivation for children to learn about the world around them and how it works. And then the 6th strand is to start thinking about themselves as STEM learners, people who use STEM, who know about it, who might eventually do something with that in their lifetime. And so that's what we'd like the after-school program to really become. Instead of a lot of classes, for us to program it, and so people don't have to sign up anymore like they do for summer camp or something. We just tell them if they're in kindergarten, this is what they're going to be doing, and it would directly connect to the day. Okay, we would really like to use House Bill 5 as our way to align things. We worked on this as a staff last summer a little bit and looked at some different options, and it feels like to us in the transition in thinking in education since the magnets were started to now, that House Bill 5 really fits us well. And so there's the STEM area, obviously, but with our math part and our technology part, we could definitely start getting younger kids looking at what happens in business, what happens in public service. And so the multidisciplinary part would be, it's not going. There we go. Would be a writing component and a reading component in those areas. So there are curriculums, like there's a curriculum developed at the Museum of Science in Boston, Engineering is Elementary, and it has a reading component that goes with it, and all of these tasks, these engineering tasks that kids do, are situated in some foreign country around the world. And so they get lots of other things besides just learning how to build, solve whatever problem it is. Okay, so these are the things that, some of these we currently have, and some others we feel like we could develop. We have a robotics lab in one of our extra science labs now. We have the Outdoor Learning Center, which is just being finished, and it was redesigned in the bond, and you're really going to need to come see it because it's incredible. We have a full-size greenhouse, and we have all these new raised planting beds, and we're getting this renewable energy lab in the next couple weeks. Those are things we have. Those are things we can design our programs around. What we don't have, we can get, I think. The Engineering is Elementary curriculum, I think we could use. One of our partners is a bank, so we could partner with them, hopefully, on the financial piece. One of our parents is with Junior Achievement. We're hoping we could maybe pull them in. And then we would really like to investigate some possibilities for service. And so one of the simplest ones that we've come up with is, next year when our beds are working and we're planting and we're growing vegetables, why can't we partner with the Southeast Community Center across the street? So there are lots of things that are free, and we just feel like if we could design our after-school program to align with our magnet program during the day more closely, then it eases up some of the requirements for staff, because if we, and I'll get to this in a second, if we limit the enrollment, and it'll actually be able to stay about like it is now, but we wouldn't have, right now we have classes that might have kindergartners and first graders in them, or second graders and third graders, or third graders and fourth graders. And what happens is we end up with classes of 11 and classes of 17 and classes of 22, and it's just, it's not very consistent. And so if we did that, if we went to exactly, 2 classes per grade level, it just went away. Hang on. Help me. I think I've lost the power. Anyway, if we went to exactly 2 classes per grade level per day, K through 6, building those skills early so that when they do get to 3rd and 4th grade and they can do robotics, they have built the skills to do that by the time they get there. And also for us, I think it's more about, there we go, providing time for staff, and we feel like this is how we could do it. If we limit it to 2 sections per day per grade, we could still do K to 6. That would mean I'd have 14 teachers teaching on any given day. If we canceled classes just 1 Wednesday per month, and we tell parents this spring when those are, they didn't have any real adverse reaction to that. They felt like, okay, 1 day a month, I can handle that. And then the other part was we do have to limit how many days teachers can teach, because currently I have a number of teachers who teach 5 days, which leaves no days for them to work with us. And so if we limit their teaching to 4 days, it gives us some flexibility to have people partner, basically. So instead of just being a sole provider of this class, they would now have a partner. So if every 1 Wednesday a month, everybody would be off and we would all meet. But then every Wednesday of the month, besides that one, certain people would rotate in and out of their class schedule. And so we would have substitute teachers that would not substitutes, like campus teachers who would substitute for them in the after-school program. We do that right now when they need to go to PD. But we feel like we could make it work. It is very tight, but we think we could make it work. In terms of bus transportation, we have about 30 kids, I think, that ride the bus at 5 o'clock, at 5:15. So, and they are generally families, so it's probably, I'm guessing, 7 or 8 families, maybe 10. So, and this year we're the first pickup, so I can't complain quite as much about how late my kids get home. Some of them may still, because they still go to Pease and Bowie and, but mine get picked up first this year, so they get home probably a little bit sooner. But I think we could, with parent pickup until 5:15, people could generally get there to pick them up if you decided not to have bus transportation.
I have a question.
Okay.
You indicated in your comments that the math magnet had lost its uniqueness. Are the things that you proposed here, in your opinion, going to recapture that uniqueness?
We think so. And I really disagree that we've lost our uniqueness, but I think that's just the perception. And I think it's the perception because when the magnets were instituted, not very many other schools had a science lab on campus, and most of them still don't have a science lab teacher in there all day long. But that's what parents will say to us, well, we have a science lab at, whatever school. And so they're not comparing apples to apples, but they still, we had a few students leave this year with the boundary changes and everything because they said, well, I don't really know what's so different, and so why should we drive across town? I feel like if we really come up with some innovative things for these strands and make it very clear exactly what we do and how it pertains to the after-school program, I do think we can rebuild it.
Thank you.
Let me ask you, I'm just trying to kind of summarize. Let me ask you to go back to your seesaw consideration slide.
Okay. I'm going to go, oh, wait, I can't do it. Hang on.
Or someone could help her get back to
Somebody
the seesaw.
help me get there, yeah. If you get to slide 1, I can go there. Okay.
All right, now, while this is your slide, as I understand it, these 3 programs wrestled with the seesaw, with every campus is struggling with the problem on the right side, the time for professional learning and collaboration. And each of the after-school and programs, those are a detriment to each individual teacher who participates in those programs for their professional learning and collaboration opportunities, correct?
I think I don't know if I'd say it's a detriment, but I think it's definitely almost like another job.
Okay. There certainly aren't the opportunities for them to participate and collaborate and go to all the professional developments like other teachers, I guess.
It's not as easy. It can be done. We're doing it, but we have to have people substitute for them so on any given day right now, if someone needs to go to a science or a math or whatever training on a Tuesday, then we have to be sure that somebody can cover that class for that day. And so it doesn't, it doesn't always happen, obviously, because if people aren't working on that day, then they're free to leave, at 4 or 4:15. So it is a seesaw all the time because you're just trying to balance it. But we feel like if we streamline the program a little bit, we can do it. It still won't be super easy, but.
All right, meanwhile, on the other side is the impact on the students themselves. And if I understand it, the reduction in minutes after school is intended to be addressed or replaced by 2 things. One is a refocus of those magnet efforts during the regular school day, and then trying to improve, let's say, the focus or quality of the after-school programs that remain
Right.
under each of the proposals. All right. Now, I understand none of you really addressed the daycare impact, even though some of you may have had some consideration, but is it, and I don't want to put too fine a point on it, and I don't want to diminish the practical impact on the parents who are affected, but I take it that the daycare impact was not the big focus of these proposals, because that's not a component of what the magnet schools are all about.
I don't believe it was ever supposed to be. If I understand it correctly, Mr. Fuller, you can correct me. When the magnet grants were written, they were written for a 3-year period, and the after-school program was an attractor to get people, to take a chance and come to those programs. And it has always been a very attractive thing for people for that reason. But I do think over the years, it has become a daycare solution for some.
Well, and by asking that question, or I guess trying to summarize my understanding at least, I don't mean at all to diminish the practical impact that it has on parents, these changes. Right. And it is significant, I'm sure, in many cases. It's just that that's not, that they at least whatever benefit they have, if any, left from these is far better than what they can experience at any other elementary school that doesn't provide this.
Right.
The question, I guess, is that the more difficult question is the different, as one of the speakers said, the difference between having children in the same school that have different after-school departure times.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting here, Rick, with kind of going through the same thought process as you are. I mean, I agree with Mr. Isaacs that we're not in the business of daycare, but at the same time, I don't think we should make it difficult for parents to get daycare. And it seems to me that when there are different times during the day that you're going to let them out, and when you have some grades, and this doesn't really apply to you as much as to the other two, but when some siblings would be used, could go and others couldn't. I think we may be unnecessarily making it more complicated as they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with their children.
Appreciate your comments. It helped clarify in my head a little bit more of kind of where this thing's going, and Rick trying to focus us down. But I guess, Dr. Warren, my question would be for you. If we make these changes, is it going to enhance the magnet school experience and potentially increase participation?
Before you vote on this, I think we need to make sure that we bring you those answers, because that's exactly why we started these conversations internally in the first place. Number one is, there's 3 very, very important groups that this potential change affects. Number one, absolutely the kids. But then we have our parents and we have our teachers, all right? From my standpoint, taking care of our teachers every day means giving them enough time to do their job and to provide the training they absolutely have to have, not only for our regular ed programs, but now as magnet school teachers to produce that. We really, what's important to me is I really want to see, and I really want to believe that our parents chose the magnet school experience not just for the 1 hour after school, that they really want to have their children immersed in those tenets. So having those programs within the school day so all kids can participate, every single kid in the magnets can participate in those tenets, is very important for me. So I think we've got to continue, we've got to refine this to make sure that we can bring you to those answers saying that this is absolutely going to drive forward the specialness of these campuses the way they were originally contracted to be.
One question I have is that I think was answered, but I want to get more specific, and that is with regard to staffing. I've picked up on the challenge of of making sure when someone has to leave, to provide staffing for a substitute instructor. I guess my additional question is are any of these after-school programs at risk, or is there a challenge or a concern that we will not be able to staff them with the appropriate personnel if we don't make any of these changes going forward?
It is a challenge.
To say that we would not be able to provide anything, I think is going a little too far, but the three of them are
No, not
always-
anything, but would be a challenge to to staff them like you would want to staff them if you didn't make any change and we were to go forward?
I think it just is a much more difficult situation to try to push that lever up on the professional development side. And if we decide not to do anything, we're just going to have to get a lot more creative about how we push people around, in that program and give them opportunities to collaborate. And so it's going to be very challenging.
All right.
Without any relief at all.
All right, well, this is an action item. However, as with all action items, we have the ability, yeah, sure, cool.
For all three, what do the teachers think? I think, ma'am, you mentioned what the teachers think. What do the teachers think? You can summarize for us, the three of you, if you will. Is it a thing that the teachers believe is going to enhance the program?
Well, we are all three so different. Our children get 45 minutes a day in kindergarten through third of either art, music, dance, theater, or choir. And then in fourth, fifth, and sixth, you can't hear me, sorry. And then in fourth, fifth, and sixth, they get actually an hour a day of magnet programs during the school day. So our children do get plenty of time with the magnet theme. But our teachers, I think, would say that it is a challenge to prepare for the academic activities as well as the magnet activities day in and day out. And the length of the day is very trying for them. I believe we've been a magnet for either 7 or 8 years. And it's been a long day for me every day, so I can kind of speak to it too. It's 10 hours a day. So.
Team, I think you have, from the last two presentations, we've got two very, very important decisions to make. One of them is the attendance zone lines, and this one is the magnet school, after-school program. The biggest issue is to be as fair as we can to our families if we're going to make changes, to give them enough time for us to do the changes, but also definitely for them. I would like a couple of weeks. I really do not want to wait until the April board meeting to readdress either one of these, but I would like to keep working on these, have our conversations. You guys submit more questions that you would like answered on both issues, and then come back to you maybe in a special workshop at the end of the month to be able to make some decisions based on what you need. That would be my recommendation. In March, the very first week of April.
Motion is a suggestion?
No, that was just a motion or a suggestion we table for right now.
Yeah. So for lack of a motion on this action item, we'll proceed forward with that recommendation.
Well,
and I apologize, if you will, if that's the right word, for those that were hoping for a decision tonight, but I hope that you appreciate that we're trying to make the right decision, and we need additional time to do that. We hope to do that in about 2 to 3 weeks. So I hope you'll bear with us and let us study it some more and then make a decision. For those that attended just on this issue, thank you for attending. We have some other items. You're free to leave, but thank you for your interest and your participation this evening. All right, action item 6C, discussion and possible approval of instructional materials allotment, TEAC certification for 2016 and 17. The memo regarding this topic begins on page 137 of our board packet.
Team, this is something we ask you to approve every year by code, and we do certify that our IMA, the instructional materials allotment did go through the process of being vetted, and we're satisfied that we are satisfying the performance standards under the Texas Education Code. I recommend approval for that certification.
Motion by Mr. Hernandez. Second by Mr. Robnett. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. Action item 6D, discussion and possible approval of student absences related to the Midland Hispanic Cultural Center.
Team, Ms. Charlene does a great job with the Hispanic Cultural Center putting on the Cinco de Mayo activities. They do need your permission. The children need your permission to be able to count these as school absences. I would recommend approval.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Fuller, second by Mr. Bishop. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. Action item 6E, discussion and possible approval of new contracts for telecommunications services. The memo on this topic begins on page 141 of our board packet.
Team, the committee recommends after the bidding process to go through and renew our contracts with AT&T for our WAN connections, our Hub WAN, and our SIP trunks. I know I don't have to explain those anymore to you because you know exactly what those are. I would recommend approval.
I'm so moved, even though I have no clue.
Motion by Mrs. Nicholson. Second by Mr. Hernandez. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. All right, action item 6F, discussion and possible approval of personnel appointments. The recommendations are on page 142 of our packet.
Team, these are recommended subject to assignment.
Motion by Mr. Isaacs, second by Mr. Robnett. Any questions or comments, discussion about this item? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. Last action item, 6G, discussion and possible findings regarding teacher contract abandonment. 1, good cause did not exist for resignation. 2, complaint and request for sanction TEA regarding M. Holguin.
Team, I would recommend approval.
Motion by Mr. Hernandez, second by Mr. Isaacs. Have you not seen this name before?
I hope not.
It seems to ring a bell,
No,
but anyway,
no,
hopefully not.
This is not a repeater on this one.
All right, hopefully not. All right. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Mr. Fuller, is that? Yes, all right. All right, it is now 8:43 p.m. and we will go into executive session to discuss personnel contracts pursuant to section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code.
All right. Staff, you are dismissed. I need the chiefs and Paul to come back with us.
To address action item 8A, 1, 2, and 3, those being discussion and possible approval of employee contracts renewals / extensions, including term, probationary, non-certified, and authorizing the superintendent to issue contracts to 1, administrator, non-certified term contracts, 2, probation and dual contracts, and 3, term and dual contracts.
Team, I recommend approval.
I so moved.
Motion by Ms. Nicholson. Second by Mr. Hernandez. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. We will now adjourn at 9:15 p.m. Thank y'all.
Board,
Thank you.
if you have specific questions about either the attendance zones or the magnet school proposals, please forward those to me